Michael wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What's going on out there, traders? Welcome back. It's another great week right here on TTP Live. Of course, guys, who's ready to get back into the markets here? And we'll see what we can come up with. And let me know if my mic's a little off. I feel like I'm not catching myself as clear as I normally am. But hey, how we doing, traders? I'm excited for another week here. And guess what, team? I am just, I would say, this close, just barely missing out on the funded account. We might just get it right here live in front of you guys. Like always, guys, you guys have been seeing me battle for a while now, and I'm really looking to take it to that next step, right? Really looking to show you guys payouts. That's what I want to show you guys. How do I get there? Funded account. Let's get after it. There's not only one account that I'm close to, but two accounts that I'm close to. So let's keep it going, guys. We'll talk all about it during the show. We'll take a look at the market. Trump tariffs coming in and shaking up the market. Will they continue to crash down? That's really the question that I asked you guys also today. So let me know what you guys think in the chat. We'll get some more traders in here. But looking forward to see, will the Trump's tariffs crash the market today? Of course, TTP live trading. Let's get to the action. Let's take a look at what's going on the playbook today. And I want to tell you guys a little bit more about trade ideas that you guys can find on our websites. We'll be talking more about that, guys, but definitely smash the like. A lot more for you guys right here on TTP live. Of course, let me go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can take a look into the market, take a look into the playbook, and we'll see if we can find maybe a trade right here before the open, right? I'm looking to make a trade here, especially with the smaller account. We'll talk all about that, but hey, just $50, guys. That's all I need. Let's talk about today's playbook action. We'll take a look at what stocks are moving this morning, what's up my radar, and what am I looking at in the market with today's playbook. First up, let's talk about Tesla, because I think this is one that is going to be on the short side of things today. And I'll be looking to see if Tesla takes a hard hit down, back down through the 50 EMA, back down closer to the 200 EMA. As I'm looking at Tesla, could potentially come back down to $300. Yes, I said that, right? And I know that's going to make a lot of traders flip out. Well, the truth is, Elon's not in the good light today, because what's happening here? Well, what's happening is, of course, the tariffs are affecting the auto manufacturers, as that's going to affect a lot of different places in the auto manufacturers, right? They could have supply chain issues, costs rise. They could squeeze on the margins that were already tough, and auto prices could lose competitiveness with the downside pressures building here. Of course, these tariffs were meant to help here, but really it's going to cause some issues for certain companies. This morning, we're already seeing it in GM this morning, down big. And I talked about how GM, for some reason, was hanging on. It was a lot of positive outlook, but I was bearish on these companies. Why? Because I've talked about how used cars will become a new normal in 2025. This is a theme that is being untalked about. And I think why? Because, of course, they're trying to sell as many vehicles as they can at these prices. I think at some point, something has to give. Either we're going to have to create a credit for these vehicles, or the prices will need to come down. And these tariffs won't be helping that issue. If anything, they'll be hurting that issue. So GM now down to 45.89, and this could be down way further, guys. They cracked the 200, was trying to hold the support here at 50. Now look where it's at. This is a big break on the chart, and you're not only going to see it in GM. I expect to see further leak in Ford. Ford could easily be back down towards $8 and the pandemic low. Ford is not looking good. I'll tell you one thing. I don't want any piece of Ford, and I love Ford. I'm a big Mustang fan, but this is not looking good here, guys. And it's not just going to be in the big legacy auto manufacturers. Look for the smaller ones to take a hit also, like names like Lucid. I could see this going towards $1 pretty soon. And the Lucid dreamers, they're going to be dreaming really big, but there ain't much there to dream about. And you can take a look at it with even Rivian that was doing good, right? Rivian is one that I like, but now it looks like it's heading for some hard downside action. I can see this maybe undercutting 10. And yes, would I love to have Rivian in the single digits? I'll be looking at it, guys, because I think this is an interesting one for long-term investment. In the short term, things are not looking good for the auto manufacturers. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to the next one here. We'll talk a little bit about another short trade, and then I got a long trade for you guys. Let's talk about Deere to the short side. And why Deere, right? Well, we're in farm and heavy construction machinery that was doing really well because of what? Future talk of interest rates getting cut. But what's the number one thing that can hurt farm and heavy construction machinery? It's going to be facing issues on the supply chain disruption and looking to see what happens here, right? So Deere is one that just cut down this light blue line, which is a 9 EMA. I'll look to see if we can recover that today, which is 469. But if we cannot recover that today, watch out, because this could be heading down further. So we'll see what happens there. Not looking the best right now, but hey, Deere is one that I'll be watching for some continued takedown. Maybe a little bounce out the gates, and then the flush comes in. If not, in the next couple of days, but definitely on the radar. Let's go over to the long trade, which is looking into oil. And I'm looking to see which trade to look at, right? I've been waiting to see when this MPC could get above this trend line. Last week, it was really close there. We were right on it, and we rejected it. Now I'm going to look to see if we can just rally right back towards those levels and actually take out the levels right here, the 154. That 154 is going to be vital. So I need to see this actually change tune before I get too excited. But this is one that could start getting going today and start making its drive back towards 154. This morning, already off the lows, but we are seeing oil up this morning as we're getting some lift from, of course, the Trump tariffs. So we'll see what happens if a rally in energy stocks could be brewing here with some inflationary pressures. All right, guys, of course, there's going to be a lot of talk of inflationary pressures and what's going on with the tariff situation. At the end of the day, guys, the way that I view this, right, is that the tariffs will come in. They will make an effect, right? But how quickly will those effects make it to the numbers that we read, like CPI and PCE, and then B, how will they affect in the long term, and how long will they take to show up in those numbers is going to be the thing to watch. I think that in the long run, the tariffs will be played out, but if we can create some economic stimulus, some kind of push on another side of things, then we can weigh in and weigh out, balance out these tariffs, right? Yes, they will be hitting GDP outlook right now, but let's see if we can get some more production, something that can push us further on the upside of GDP to balance out this weighing in. And I think that's exactly what Trump is doing. He's not doing these just to get them done, right? He's doing these tariffs to go ahead and do what? Figure out a way to push the economy, right? Hey, you can always press down on one side and then press the gas pedal on the other side. We'll see what happens today. Still conversations being talked about what can happen with some AI investments. So I think what we do is we wait to see the good news, because right now the market definitely was waiting to hear bad news. It finally got the bad news, and right back down the market went. So now, can we get something that can change tune? We're looking for good news to drive the rally back. If there's no good news, then I think we still stair step lower. Is this a crash? By no means necessary, I think. But I think at the end of the day, whenever we're going down, it causes uncertainty. When uncertainty comes into play, what are the number one kind of stocks that are going to get hit? It's going to be your euphoric stocks, the euphoria names. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about in this market. Another thing that we need to be thinking about is, where are we getting in the timeline of kind of bull markets, right? And you guys have heard a lot of conversation about this. And we've talked about this also with Michael Nauss, right? And we can take a look here at a tweet that I was looking at. And I'll give a little shout out to investment.com. Because they were kind of putting this up. Of course, the main stage is in a bubble. And I think we're getting to that point where we need to be asking ourselves, right? What is going on in this space, and where are we in this kind of bubble action, right? Are we in the media attention area? Are we in the enthusiasm, greed, or are we in the denial stage, right? A new paradigm. I think at this point, we're not near the top. I know that a lot of people were when I put this out, some of them said that we were in the denial stage and things like that. I think right now we're actually just moving into the enthusiasm stage because we are getting a little bit higher and there is some greed out there. But the delusion, I don't think, has started, right? Where just stocks are going to the moon, right? I think there are some names that we saw get the nice lift in quantum that could give you that mentality that maybe we're getting to that delusion mentality. But I think we're just starting to get towards greed and we're running into a little bit of a trap, right? Now we need to see, do we keep going higher or do we start to really create this downward action, right? The blow off phase. I think we're still in the mania phase and we start to look to see, when do we get good news? And when we get good news, how's the reaction? Is it a straight upside reaction? That's what I'll be looking for. All right, guys, let's keep it going. We'll take a look at what's going on in the market today. Good morning to you guys out there. It's good to see you. If you're new to the show for any reason, say hello, and I'm ready to get after it. Mike, what's up, man? It's good to see you. You still battling? I know that you were battling on the account. Let's take a look at my account. We'll talk a little bit how close I am, and we'll take a look at both of them. How can I get the success this today? And I'll tell you what, guys, it's pretty close, and I'm already looking at a trade potentially that could do it. BCTX. We'll talk a little bit more about that trade, but here it is, guys. Here's my account and my mini that I'm trying to get towards the action here, guys, and take a look into it, guys. We're really close here, guys. So here you guys have it. Profit target right now at 1,362. Need to get to 1,350. Right there, guys. And I pushed myself on Thursday and Friday. I said, you know what? I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm just going to try to take a couple of smaller trades to get myself closer so that I could do this live in front of you guys. And here you guys have seen it. Essentially, I opened this one up on January 21st. So where has it been? It's been, what, 2 weeks? That's it, guys. So 2 weeks, we're going to be able to at least get really close to it, getting this, right? And you guys can see here, risk and reward at 1.42. I love that ratio. That leaves me an easy ability to make money, even being wrong more than half the time. I think that's so important to understand, traders. I essentially have been wrong more than a flip of a coin, yet I'm still making money. How do I do this? Well, the focus is on profit to loss ratio. That's what matters. Keeping what I call the mathematical probability, right? Because if you don't have mathematical probability on your side, well, you're going to keep searching and searching for the answers and not get success, right? Best stock was a biotech. It was a nice little runner where I was able to make some good money. But you guys can see it on the last kind of trades here, and I'm gonna add some more here so that we can kind of roll through them really quickly. But definitely, you guys can see the action there. Pretty much kind of some balance, right? It's nothing crazy, right? 96 wins. And this is where I really kind of made a nice little jump here. This EVAX, I made a nice $459 trade, which was a monster trade on this one. This was a halter that kind of kept going. But Black Box made me a good amount. Remember, Truro, I made those trades right in front of you guys right here. On both sides of Black Box, whether it was on the short side of things or the buy side of things, right? So we'll see what happens now, guys. The last couple of days, I did like a $68 win, an $89 win on Friday, just to try to keep going, right? And what do you see here? A lot of selling QUBT lately. So I'm probably going to get off of QUBT because I've been doing so well. I need to see if I can go ahead and nail this, guys. So only less than $50 to get the account. Let's see what happens, guys. And then we'll see. I mean, it's not an easy battle, I can tell you guys. And for all you guys that have been battling with me here, we'll see if we can go ahead and cash in. Got a little rusty on Friday, took a small hit, but still on track to pass. Glad to have you back here to keep telling me to stay disciplined. Yes, that's what it's all about, man. And I'm here every day, Mike. And there's times where we're going to feel that we're on point. There's times when we're not going to be on point. Recognize this. The best day traders know when they're doing well and know when they're doing bad. They hit the brake pedal, stop the bleeding, and then get right back up. If you guys see here, I was in a little bit of a struggle here I made a nice little jump higher. I was at 1200, right? And then I started to struggle a little bit, started to go sideways for about 2 weeks. But what did I do? I kept the losses mitigated, small losses and some small winners too, but keeping myself within reach, especially when you're really close to the eval. The number one thing you don't want to do is take an elevator move down, right? That's when you really start to get caught, and that's when you get run over. So I wish you the best of luck, Mike. I'm here to root you on and keep pushing forward, just like I'm here to root everyone on. I'm here to support you guys. If you guys need help breaking down strategy, doing it all, I'm here for you guys, just like Michael Nauss is here also. Got the $97 account. Any tips? That's exactly what I'm talking about right here. So the number one thing, of course, is looking to get into a nice quality trade at the beginning. It's so important to try to be patient at first and get yourself a nice cushion on the account so that the pressure can relieve and you can just trade. Once you get closer to, let's say, the profit take, let's say closer towards $1,000, I think that's the important area. That's when you can really kind of slow things down and maybe do a little bit more of a base hit focus. But it's how you want to go about it. If you want to just take some swings and try to accomplish this in a week, you can go for it. Realize you have 45 days. You don't need to make an insane amount of money every single day to get that success. That's one thing I'll say. And like always, like Michael Nauss says it all the time, and I think it's important for you guys to hear it from multiple traders. Try and take good quality trades can eventually lead you to a big runner that will give you a nice jump in the account. But if we look for that runner, it probably doesn't happen. It just needs to kind of fall into place, right? We'll see what else is out there, guys. Keep battling. Uncle Raymond, hey, just know Uncle Mitch is here with you, my friend, here to battle. All right, what's going on out there on the Twitch life? What's up out there? The twitching. Don't worry, I won't twitch for you, but definitely we'll see what happens today, man. It's good to see you out there. Don't see too many people out on the trading on Twitch. That's the one thing I think we need to do a little bit more of, right? Get some more Twitch people in here. All right, guys, we'll take a look around X. A lot of people joining in on X. If you guys are joining in on the stream on X, do me the favor, click on the stream and actually hit a comment of one stock that you guys are watching today, and I'll make sure to cover it. Let's do some kind of great time. We can call it kind of hot potato time. I know we used to call it that on an old show that I used to talk about it, but let's do some ticker time. You guys throw in tickers. I'm here to help you guys out. What are the charts that you guys are watching this morning? Throw them up in the chat. And you guys on X, all you got to do is click the stream, and then you'll be able to drop in a comment. I'd love to see some comments come in here. So definitely hit the like, guys. Let's keep going. All right. And there's one more account that I want to tell you guys about, right? It's not only this one. And I think what this one will show you guys is when you get more buying power and you get kind of access to trading bigger, there's going to be bigger swings, bigger ups and downs. On that smaller limited account, I kept it very steady. But as the accounts get bigger, there's going to be more of these jumps, ups and downs. We need to just try to control those falls, right? Well, take a look at this account. This one is actually one that I had to extend. Yes, the program was about to end on the 2nd. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to push for the profit target, because if I push for the profit target, just try to take one big trade, it's probably not going to happen for me. But if I can just stair step my way higher, maybe I can get to the success and get to the profit target. Profit target on this one is 3,150. But one thing that I can tell you guys, and you guys can clearly see it here, is the up and down action on this, right? There's moments where I've been up towards 900, and then the next thing you know, I'm back down to 100. This is what it's all about. And this is what you want to be avoiding, right? There's big drops, right? There's like right here, I was at 16.7 and I had a bad day. I didn't pay attention. I was focused on the other account and I took a max loss type of day. But if we keep trading the right ways, we could run into a day like this where I go to from 1,100 up there to 2,000, right? $1,000 day, right? You're going to run into these trades. We need to just try to avoid these big falls. Keep it steady, right? You want to almost draw a trend line on your equity curve and be able to actually follow that trend line, right? Not falling through it and doing like an undercut and rally type of move, right? So we'll see what happens on this, guys. Pretty close on this. I extended it to give me time. And what is it going to do? It's going to make me want to play base hits. So now that I have another 45 days, I will go and just try to base hit this to 3,150. Not try to take $600 or $700 trades or $1,000 trade like I ran into on the 30th. All right, guys, that's going to be the outlook. And you guys can see here the risk to reward ratio. I always talk about how I shoot for 1.1 to 3. 1 to 3 to 1 to 4. It depends on the account, right? In this case, the results are at least telling me that my strategy mentality of risk to reward is actually happening, right? I always want to look back at this and be like, if I start seeing this going into 1 to 2.5 or 1 to 1.8, that's when I realize I'm maybe taking profits too fast and not really setting up that probability, because the success rate has been 33%. And yet I'm still making good money, guys. This is important, right? Another aspect in looking into profit to loss ratio. If you can do this, and let's say if I can even just get this to a 50% success rate, I'll be way in the green, right? So let's just keep pushing forward. I hope that you guys can learn from this in the breakdown of these accounts, because that's what I'm here for. I want you guys to learn how you guys can go ahead and get towards the end of the eval. All right, guys, it's 9 a.m. We'll take a look at different stocks that are moving in the market. We can talk about the Sunrise report. There really isn't too much there. Of course, it's just all Trump tariff talk. We can talk a little bit more about what stocks are getting hit, what stocks are shining, and how we're going to do this by, of course, bringing on the man himself, Michael Nauss. So let's go ahead. Let's just bring him on. Let's take a look at what's going on in the market this morning. And like always, if you guys have a question for Michael, hey, throw it up. He'll definitely catch it, and we'll get to some of the stocks that you guys are watching this morning. So like always, guys, let's kick the show off really here. I already did the intro here, but let's go ahead. Let's bring a little tunes in here. Let's bring in my man, Michael Nauss. How we doing this morning, Michael?
What's going on? I'm doing well. I think my voice is, I guess, holding up a little bit. I made a big mistake and tried to
back. I guess the late nights got to you in New York.
a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm excited for the market. It was an amazing time. I got to speak to a lot of great traders. Got to hang out with Dan Ives for a little bit, and hung out in the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Walked around there.
The biggest tech guru out there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah. So I've got a lot of stuff I'm working on. A lot of algos, a lot of things like that going on. So.
Yeah. You know, there's this one thing I know you ain't going to stop, man. You're going to keep pushing in that direction. And if you guys don't already know, of course, Michael has a great newsletter that I think everyone needs to be a part of. So I'll definitely make sure we throw up a link in the comments in a little bit here. But let's keep pushing. Let's take a look into the markets. I know that you got some good New York lunch spots. I hope they were good to you on Friday, and they let you know that down was coming, because, man, I'll tell you what, Michael, on that Friday, I kind of was watching the market in the morning. I didn't take too many trades in the early morning. I had some things with just family life going on, right? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take it the morning off or whatever. I did all the things I needed to do. And then in the afternoon, I went and I just sat down and I just opened the phone and I just see big red candle. Right. Yeah. And it's funny how you always get to the market like 2 or 3 minutes after that happens. It seems like it happens all the time. Right. And so because I wasn't so attached to the market action early in the day, I was able to actually just be really objective at that point and go after a stock, giving me a nice little small base hit, getting me closer on the account. But I didn't overreact. I didn't overthink it. I just saw the price action and I said, hey, this is a significant move down, which will cause some kind of leakage somewhere. Where can I look for the leak? Let's go looking for the leak, and let's take a look at what leaking today.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually in the Trader TV office when it was happening, so they were reading the news to me of the tweets that were going on. So yeah, I was able to at least get out of a lot of my positions because the initial tweet was, oh, they're going to delay the tariffs. And then Trump came back and said, no, we're not. they're coming in soon. So at the very least, I was able to kind of punch out of some of my swings and some of my long-term trades there. But when we're looking here at the heat map, it's kind of exactly what we expect to see. We have UNG doing well, but a lot of these are DBC commodity type names. And I think the reason for these is these are US based commodity names. So if there's tariffs from the outside countries that are, oil and gas and gold and lumber and all this, it makes more sense that that's the whole point of tariffs, is try to incentivize people to buy internally. So if that's the case, which it is, then it makes sense that these are going to be up. So we have oil up, we have gold up, we have XLE up. All of these sectors are doing fantastic. So I'm going to watch these very, very closely, because I think it's very interesting that they are holding up so well, considering that everything is going on. So we'll need to keep an eye there as well. To the downside, a lot of tech, a lot of big cap tech, a lot of places that people have large gains, and they're capitalizing on those large gains to try to take some money out of the position. So, it's one of those, this is exactly what's to be expected. But what I wanted to kind of chat about is that, we've seen this a bunch of times recently. And not UNG. Geez, that's how addicted I am. The SPY. Right. So we had this drop under 580. This was a very bad news day. And then we rallied up into the close there. And then we had this drop here on the 27th. And then we've rallied up into the close and hitting highs. So far in the last month or so, we have a pattern of market sells off due to bad news over the weekend or over, the overnight session when everything's closed. We come in the morning and everybody's buying stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the case today, but we've seen it 3 or 4 times now over the last few months. So if it is, I'm not going to get too attached to the bear side. Also, my Twitter bear market, or my Twitter perma bear indicator, was on fire on the weekend.
Yeah, dude, they made me a bull, man.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of some of these guys in ages. They just, were completely off the internet because they had been so wrong about being bearish for so long. And they came back, and they came back pounding their chests and saying, oh, I told you so. So even though we're like 4% off all-time highs, but that's here nor there. So I'm not going to get too attached to the bear side. One of the strategies that I've learned a little bit, I sat next to, you probably know, Kenny Glick. You remember? Have you ever seen Hit the Bid?
Come on, man. Of course I know my man. Hit the bid. You know it. The VWAP specialist over there, man.
I chatted with him a lot while I was out, and he
Kenny mother Glick.
He's a wild man, that's for sure.
He deserves.
But yeah, I mentioned, I said, hey, I'm trying to get into a little bit more day trading. I said I got my swing trading all systematized. That gives me time to look at some day trades. And he's like, well, let me sit you down. And the skill on that man is insane. He's like, listen, I'm buying, it was like UPS or something that day. He's going to buy there, it's going to go right to there, and it's going to stop. And he nailed like 4 days in a row. He nailed some of those. I've been working.
It's Kenny. It's
really
Kenny,
hard.
man. We'll give him a shout out again, guys. Hitthebid.com. I know my man very well. There's one thing that's certain. Michael and I really catch those guys that we're just like, man, this guy has skill, man. And one of the things is, as a trader that you get over years, you realize when you speak to certain traders, you're just like, man, this is not like a simple strategy or something. It's something that he've actually put some time, experience to. And I know that Kenny was kind of working with his son and getting him to the next level. So I'm excited to hear about that. Looks like we're going to have to bring on Kenny Glick himself onto here and talk about it. But definitely excited to hear what he gave you and some insight there. Looking to hear if you can play it in.
Well, that's the thing is, he broke down his entire strategy to me and what it is that he's looking for. And this is something I know Mitch will understand, but you don't. Trying to get a straight answer. He's one of those eccentrics. So he's talking about, he's bringing up everything, the whole idea of the trading strategy was all references to Shawshank Redemption. Like there was no, technical talk. He was talking about, all of these parts of the movie. So I had to take like a Rubik's cube and try to figure out what he was saying. But at the end of the day, so I got a little trading strategy there that I'll start tweaking with and talk to you guys about. So I've got a couple of those, but just going over the long-term market, the main thing I wanted to do is, okay, this is the pre-market candle that I have on the chart now. We are still just in the middle of this range. So everyone who's losing their mind saying, right, the bull market's over, the sky is falling, we're in the middle of this range. We were here last week. So, I think it's one of those, take a breath, zoom out, understand that, we're stuck in the middle of the range and kind of trade accordingly. It would make sense if we drift to the lower end of this range, we see some buyers, and if we drift to the high end of the range, we see some sellers. So I think that we're in an area in which revision to the mean, that type of thing, is really going to be powerful, looking for stocks that maybe gap up and fade or gap down and rally. That's a lot of what I'm going to be looking for, I think, over the next little bit, where, we're in flux, right? If you look at your board, yes, everything's red because everything's gapping down. The sectors that aren't, we just went over. Energy is doing well. Psychedelics, because this thing just seems to have a mind of its own. The rest of this, again, is energy and all of that. The big thing that I'll say, talking to a lot of smart people about what all this tariffs would do, is they essentially said that no one really cares about the tariffs. Tariffs were known that this was going to happen. Tariffs are inflationary. And I have a whole presentation we'll probably do when the market slows down. But tariffs are inflationary. And if the market gets inflationary, then the Fed stops cutting rates. So just like everything else for the last 2 years, the only thing we care about is what's the Fed going to do. So that's what all this stuff kind of breaks down to at the end of the day, is what's the Fed's going to do. So for that, we could watch TLT as well to see if TLT starts cranking higher, then that means rates are lowering. If TLT sells off here, then that means people are expecting higher rates. So this is going to be something that I think I'm going to watch a little bit more closely than I normally do.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, of course, seeing the TLT up today. And I think that one thing that we could be looking at is are people looking for maybe some safety also in the TLT, and maybe just trying to play it for some downside protection here, in this case. So we'll be watching to see what happens if that expands or not. Big level for me on the TLT, of course, if you look on the hourly, if we can get back above like 88.70 here, big watch today. Hourly has a lot of highs in that area.
Also, the last thing, this is just from my days back when I used to day trade, is that when you're in periods of insane volatility like this, it makes way more sense to actually trade the indexes. So if you're someone you're generally looking for juice and volatility elsewhere, you're looking for volatility in quantum computing names or robotics or whatever, yeah, you can get those, but these are the areas in which to really shine and just trade either the indexes or a lot of these big cap tech names, because where the SPY will usually move, I think 0.5% a day is the average for the SPY. That's going to get blown away, I think, this week. I think we're going to have 1% swings up and down. So yeah, it's not a time where you really have to kind of swing for the fences and say, I need to find something crazy. I think it's more about just find levels that you like on big names and play those, because I think we can do that even on things like TLT. I think you'll actually get some moves today. So that's going to be my focus. Is I have a lot of everything queued up from the long short algorithms that I've been working on and talking with you guys before, but I'm really going to focus on maybe just hitting a few SPY trades today. I think just based off VWAP and multi-day VWAP and what I'm seeing there, I think that's going to be the move, just because everything's a bit crazy right now. So why not just go to the most liquid instruments that you're going to get the juice on anyway? So I don't really need to see what a quantum computing name or anything like that does.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in that space too. I went shorting the quantum names on Friday, and that's how I've been making some cash on that. They had a nice little pop, and I was like, so there's two things that were happening on Friday. I was either watching them to say that, okay, so this was either going to recover and completely continue ripping, but once the market really came down, those didn't actually at first. And I was like, well, I mean, it's just a matter of time. This leak is everywhere. It's not just in one area. It's hitting the market everywhere and catching traders by surprise. That was another thing too. And I knew that this was a big surprise. So it was good to maybe bet downside throughout the weekend. And I'm sure those bears and swing traders are pretty happy this morning as they're coming in and cashing in. That's another reason why I'm looking for potential dips on all those bearish stocks, or maybe a push back right out the open as some over weekend swings probably take some profits right out the gates here, just because it's a overblown trade, I think here. Guys, I just mentioned one earlier and I was about to take it, guys. I just a part of me was like, you know what? I don't feel like interrupting the morning right now for a penny stock, but BCTX here, guys. This pattern right here on the 15-minute, really nice looking pattern here. It was just starting to recover the 590s. I'd even make a mention that this was probably one of the stocks that I was looking to trade this morning, but it's already making the move here now to 685, 690s. And what was the real nice pullback move was where it was right here on 611s. It came back here towards the 565 and then the 590 pullback right here, 580s. Really nice looking pullback over 6, pulls back towards a stop out level, hits some stops, regains that 6, and then really starts to get going here. We'll see if it's able to get to the after hours halt level, which was 775, where it went into a halt. So we'll see what happens on that one. And that was, of course, on Monday's action this morning. It was at 735. They had some news on this one, so we'll look to see if BCTX can keep it running here. Not a bad move.
Yeah, not a bad move at all. It's going to be one of those things. I think it might even be harder for some of these lower float names to get going just because everybody's attention is focused elsewhere. It's kind of the opposite of the summer effect. You know that in the summer, you see these crazy stocks like quintuple because that's the only place that there's any action. So it's where everyone plays. I'd be interested to see if the opposite is true, where you're going to have some of these pops that get faded much quicker because you don't have that retail excitement because everyone's can just look at the market and have that's where the casino is today.
What I like to do in these situations, Michael, is where so sometimes penny stocks I feel like can just start moving all together, right? Like when you go looking to see underneath the hood, there is no news, right? It's just moving, right? And then in this case, what you want to be looking for is once that retail like enthusiasm goes down, I start looking for only penny stocks that actually have a catalyst, right? That actually have some news affecting it that day, because then that can make interest come in from where? Bigger investors, essentially. Not even retail, but bigger investors looking at it. Like Reborn Coffee this morning. Why is it making 100% move? Well, it's a big distribution deal, right? And so that makes sense, right? Where the stock is making a big move. But also to point to what you're saying, look how quickly the move was faded after it ripped, right? This went from $3 up there to $8 this morning, and now it's quickly back to $5, right? Yep. And so I think that's what you're going to be seeing more and more, quick pops being sold into instead of being held for like the multi-day runner. At this point, I would not be looking for multi-day runners. I'm looking for the quick trade in the smaller names. So BCTX had news this morning, and that's another reason why I was watching it. It's not just to watch it, right? Not for anything. You want to be actually looking inside. So what did it have? It had cancer therapy results that just came out, right? So that right there, something like that can really kind of move a penny stock like this, right?
Yeah, so where you're going to get institutional involvement, right? You're going to
exactly.
get, I think two things I think that are affecting kind of the retail stocks, and one that we just mentioned, right? They've got other places to go in the casino, but yeah, the other thing is that they're going to get hit pretty hard, right? There's going to be a lot of retail people that we're still betting on the quantum computers even after Jensen just killed the industry in one shot, things like that. And they're going to have just a little bit of a bad time, right? They're going to be losing some money, and then they have to look for another, they got to do something else. So they're going to be on the back foot and a little bit weakened. So I think that puts a little bit of a stop to it. And then, yes, also just what we mentioned before is that the ones that are around, well, they got other stuff to do, right? They got other places they can go play. So I think you're 100% right to start looking at those different parts of the industry and saying, okay, what, maybe I fade these things a little bit more, right? Maybe I'm more interested in, looking for, stronger names or names that could push
I'll give you
higher,
the opposite of the story, right? A SOPA today. This one is a software company, right? But if I go and you look inside to look for catalyst, what am I seeing? The only thing I get here is like an initial offering from a company that's related to it, a Form 8. If I look in here, I actually see a recent lowered price target. It was still a buy, but a lowered price target, and this stock is moving a good amount. No reason essentially for the stock to be moving. Just maybe it could be technicals, maybe it could be something else there, but that tells me more and more, hey, let's look for stocks that actually have some catalysts, and those are the ones we want to be looking at. One thing I'm seeing this morning, getting the big jump there, Boyle, baby, Boyle showing up on the scanners. You know it, Michael.
Yeah, I'm still in heavy. I'm still in.
Where's the Widowmakers out there? What's going on?
Oh, yeah. So for those who don't know, right, the reason I've been playing this game, where is my 200th day? And I mentioned this weeks ago as well. Just if you scroll back on UNG, I've never seen an instrument. This is all the way back to 2022. So we're talking, 2.5, 3 years almost of data now. And I've never seen anything respect this 200-day moving average so insanely well. Every time we got to it, we were rejected and sold off. We got to it, we rejected, sold off over and over and over again, until kind of right here where the 200 starts to flatten out. If you read a lot of Stan Weinstein stage analysis, things like that, this is the first steps of potentially an uptrend. So we broke the 200-day moving average. We came back down to test it. So after this day that we kind of held as support, in this area, I started to buy some around $17 or so. We popped to 20. I sold some. We came back down to 15. I bought some. It's just one of those. I have a core position of UNG that I want to hold to go higher, and then the little bits around the edges, I'm kind of trading around. Same thing you'll do with day trading. If you have a level, it comes down, hits a level, you buy a bunch, it moves off, you sell, so on and so forth. So yeah, I have a pretty big position in UNG. So when I see an 8% gap up, that makes me happy. But you're right. It's UNG we're talking about. 8% isn't actually that much, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, and it's something to watch for, right? Because one area that we can look for inflationary pressures is, of course, basic materials, right? Overall, right? And I think that at this point, you see natural gas moves, but that just gets me interested in seeing what else could move, right? And one that I talked about in my playbook today, MPC, Marathon Petroleum Corp, looking to see what happens in oil overall. Right? Natural gas is going up. I'll be looking to see what happens in different oil stocks. And why this one? I just love the way this one trends when it trends. Like if you look at it on historically, this has a tendency of going up, and then down, 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 up, down, 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 down.
Well,
and so I like stocks like that.
Just technically from the USO chart, right? So this is just the oil. We've been in this wedge for a very long time. Yeah. And this is kind of textbook. We broke out. We came back to test the wedge. We held in for a couple days, and then this is today's candle where we're currently gapping up. So this is a pretty textbook oil play. I would say again, the idea is the idea is to tax things coming in from other countries. That's going to hurt, GM and Ford and anyone who buys things from other countries. But the actual raw materials inside the United States, those raw materials should actually do better, because the idea is that the whole point of tariffs is to force people to buy things from the United States. So the consumer is going to get hurt, right? Because at the end of the day, the consumer is the one that pays the tariffs. Anyone who imports things from other countries is going to get hurt. But yeah, so what we're looking for, if you're looking for strength in this market, is kind of self-contained bubbles, right? Someone who creates in the US. Again, I think oil and natural gas is moving specifically because it's the name of this ETF is United States Oil Fund. So, right, if I have to buy United States oil now, even though I could potentially get it cheaper in Canada or somewhere else, that's going to increase the price. So if we believe these tariffs are sticky, I think those are the names that you have to look for. So I think this is a really good example I wanted to highlight for people. If you're looking for longer term plays, and your theory is that these are going to last for some time, just look for places that create something in America using only American thing, and they've done that already, because they will be the benefits. Again, Walmart, General Motors, all these guys, they're going to hurt. But yeah, United States oil shouldn't care about tariffs. If anything, it's going to make people buy United States oil, and price should, in theory, go up. We'll see if that's actually the case when the market opens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Definitely that BCTX already up there to 740. So, man, at least I'm glad I brought that stock in here really early to give you guys the outlook. But have you heard about the Temper Sealy story that's going on out there? So it looks like, TPX. So it looks like FTC's is losing a vertical merger challenge here as they went to go try to buy Mattress Firm. And at first, the FTC blocked it, but a Texas judge rejecting that claim of anti-competition there. And you guys can clearly see what's happened. Mattress prices have more than doubled in a lot of places. And so with that being said, just look at the weekly on TPX. And you can scroll back. It's it just shows you that for a while, this wasn't anything to invest in. Probably until after the pandemic. But after the pandemic, oh boy, you got an opportunity. Yeah, good industry. A really great opportunity in 2022 in the bear market to get it back. And ever since then, it's just trend line up, man. And this purchase is all about that, right? It's taking away their competitor. So essentially what they can push their more expensive mattresses out on their competitors, right? Of course, Mattress Firm. I'm sure you guys see Mattress Firms on all the corners out there. So this is something to watch, man.
If you're looking for a low float, which is hilarious that this is a thing, a low float penny stock mattress. I remember these. I don't know if you remember, but these ads were everywhere. You could not watch a
little
YouTube
cube,
video.
the little purple cube.
Yeah, without watching these, you couldn't do anything. Couldn't get up out of bed without seeing one of these ads get thrown in your face. This is a D-SPAC, so right, it goes live at $10, and like most things that were SPACs, absolutely crashes. If I take off log charts, it will show you that's a little bit more pronounced of what's happened. But right, if you got mattress news and you're okay playing a junky mattress stock, that's kind of one to do, right? So
yeah, it's something to look at. I mean, and it just goes to show you, who knows, maybe there's some more further consolidation in the space now that competition is consolidating, right? And so that's something to look at. What's going on out there? What do we got here? We got some questions in here.
Yeah, I can get the Mac question. As you see, I'm on a Mac, so as a Mac nerd. Yeah, so two easy ways to do it. The web version is good. I like Parallels for anything that doesn't run in Mac OS. I think that's a really good way to do it as well, because I think the downloaded version is more robust. So I actually have a version running in Parallels. But yeah, the web version's fine, right? iOS and MacBook and all of that. Those are great as well. But yeah, just so yes, you can. Right.
Yeah. We're getting another question here in the chat. Dan coming in with the question. Let's go ahead and let's address this. It's 9:27, guys. We're getting towards the open. Do you have days when you get into a trade and the stock drops, but you hope it will get back? You know, one of the things is like always, right? I think this is a common thing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, especially if you take trades overnight, there's bound to be a trade that you come in and you're like, well, what the heck, man? That was a great technical setup. Everything was looking good. The earnings were coming this week, right? Things like that, right? But the big question that you need to be asking yourself, like always, is every trade idea needs to have what? It needs to have a reward, but it also needs to have a defined risk, right? It's something that you're understanding is your pain point, some people call it, right? How much are you willing to go into the pain, that feeling, that negative feeling, and then say enough is enough. I've had enough on this trade. I'm going to get out of the trade. Because the number one thing that you don't want to be doing is that one word. And there's a lot of times it'll happen. Hoping a trade, wishing a trade back, or just praying for a trade, whatever it may be. If you're hoping, praying, and wishing, it's probably not the trade for you, right? And I think that's one thing to think about it. How do you think about this, Michael?
Exactly the same, right? We used to call it back in the day the smoke and the hopium. But yes, this is all stuff that absolutely needs to be dealt with before the trade. And if you find that you can't, well, then that's something that you potentially want to either systematize or automate. And then the beauty of that is that you can do a lot of that in Trade the Pool, where you can send out an order, and with that order, you automatically allocate your stop loss. So you're not even thinking about it. The stop loss is out there, and then if you have to, just walk away, because all of that needs to be planned before the exit. And the reason for it is that the best traders in the world, the guys that you all look up to, and they speak at conferences, and I've met a lot of them. I've probably met the majority of them. They are right maybe 60% of the time, which sounds great. It's a good win rate in trading, but you got to understand, if you're right 60% of the time, it means of every 10 trades you make, 4 of them are going to be losers. It's just the way it's going to happen. So you need to kind of know that going in, is that if I get to the pinnacle of this game where I am better than everyone else out there, half the time, roughly, I'm going to be wrong. And with being wrong half of the time, then I need to just understand that if that's going to happen, which it will, then I always have to have my out. And my out is more important than anything, because again, I'm going to be wrong so frequently. So yeah, understand that, have a plan before everything starts, and then find a way to automate that if you have problems actually sticking with that plan. There are ways to automate that position, but we have just opened up here.
Yeah, opened up and straight down on the first action here. I'm looking to see if it's a fake out on Soxal here, and we're going to start to rise back through the 25. We'll see what happens here in the Qs also to see if we get a bounce back or some more further downside action. First action is kind of sideways on this first pop. I'll take a look to see what else is kind of moving this morning. If there's anything that gets into the green from the open, I think that's definitely something to look at.
Yes, I think and we always talk about kind of Max Payne theory a lot. And after a big gap, sometimes Max Payne theory essentially just means chop, right? So you have to be careful about that. That potentially could happen as well, right? Where we're just kind of stuck in the middle of a range.
Yeah, a lot of traders don't know how to pick a side this morning, and picking a side could be costly this morning. So just got to watch to see what action starts to take place and what can lead here out the gates here. Right now, right out to start, not a single thing in the green from the open. So when there's nothing in the green, that's a sign of concern. We'll see if some of the kind of energy, defensive, communications, the slightest one down, but still down big. Another thing to look at is names that were euphoric, starting to see if they're coming down, right? The quantum space, the aerospace and defense stock, different names out there. Just keep looking to see if there's certain euphoric names that are starting to crash.
Yeah, again, with all the emotions and everything going on, even though I'm generally not one that I'll trade, right off the pre-market or right off the open anyway, I think more than anything, this is a good little time to maybe take a, take a rest, right? And just wait, just watch what's going on here. But this is a day where, again, my list is just like Apple, the Qs, Meta, UVXY. Give me those big names, even though they might not normally be interesting. I think they're going to be interesting today for sure, right?
I'm looking around to see what's kind of getting moved, and if you see anything, of course, make mentions of it, Michael. I'm seeing some Bitcoin get a little lift there out the gates here. Not crazy, but just looking around, trying to find where the green is. A lot of down, and where it's leading the downside action here is industrials. So Deere on my watch for downside action. It's getting a little bounce right now, watching to see if it gets to hit to the downside. Basic materials down big too today. That's something not expected, of course. Silver and gold doing really well. We talked about how AU likes to lead here. I talked about that one all the time, guys. And look at AU now. We were watching this like a week ago. Look how it starts to trend. This is why I look at AU, guys. I've looked at gold enough to just look at which one is my kind of like leading indicator. A lot of times it's this AU stock, man. It's crazy, but look how it trends. So look when this picked up, literally at the beginning of the month, and it just kept going, right? And you see the hold of the 90 MA. This one's just a trend keeper, and I like those, right? Because let's say if I swing trade this, I can easily use the prior day's low kind of action and trying to just use that to get into a good strength position and then just watch it ride, right? And then now I look to see GLD follow. That's how I trade it all the time. So I let AU take the lead, and then I say, okay, now that the environment makes more sense, usually GLD starts to get the move. So we'll see what happens if that can continue. NEM is the other one that I look at in this space for a similar move.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense, right? A lot of these things are going to move with what's happening in gold, right? The flight to safety, people want a place to hang out, especially when things are getting scary. But again, so I'm going to watch, and this is an exercise we did last Monday when I was here. And if you mark these highs, right, and you mark these lows, right, that's kind of your take a breath, right? Let the market figure its way out, because this is the pre-market high on the SPY, and there's the pre-market low, and right now we're just hanging out in that zone. I'm ignoring this bar just because this looks like dark pool prints or some craziness, but yeah. So what's going on here? Are we someone who's really, really active, or are we just going to chill? And I think looking at this, I'm someone that I want to chill out for a little bit.
I'm glad I mentioned it, and I'll give a shout out to my man Julian Camacho. He's CEO and CIO at Accelerate FT, and he's the one that made this mention to me on Twitter. So TPX already getting a nice little boost there from 66 to 68. Looks like somebody in the chat made some good cash. Scotty, cash it, man, cash it. Not a bad little move to start it off here. And this is one of those where you probably needed to know a little bit into the story. So one thing to add to it is there was a supposed recent closed door meeting on this. So Julian is really big on understanding arbitrage and things like that, just to give you guys some background.
Yeah, and it's super interesting. Generally speaking, when you have somebody acquiring something, the one who's acquiring them goes down. So the fact that this one's bucking that trend is very interesting. The question is, right, we have VWAP right below us here. Does profit taking come in there? Do people kind of move out? But I think this is just going to be more of a theme. If you're someone, you mentioned does arbitrage with M&A, I think you're going to have a fun couple of years, because I think the gloves on MMA are going to come off pretty quickly and pretty dramatically, where they were kind of tied up a little bit before. So I think you're going to see more of that for better or worse. But I think M&A is definitely going to be a thing. And then SPY again continues, right? We are chopping quite a bit up in this range. So until we break one way or another, this is just one of those markets I think you have to kind of hang out for.
Yeah, I think another thing is looks like this has been going on since July 2nd. So in 2024, when this was first mentioned. So this is a resolution to a long problem.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, so starting to make a move, guys. I'm looking at the Qs make a little jump. I'm thinking Soxel here on the main account. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, the market is consolidating here pretty nicely. Let me just anchor a VWAP here from just this opening candle. See what's going on there. If we end up consolidating there, and what ends up happening. But so far we are breaking through VWAP, so that's something that we definitely have to watch out for. If we hold below this VWAP, I'm going to get rid of this 200-day moving average. If we hold below this VWAP, then could be a move down to the end of the bottom of the move. If we end up holding the VWAP, then it could be game on for everyone involved. And same with, I'm just noticing the same thing in TPX, right? If we are at kind of the daily VWAP on this name, or a little bit below, so if we start selling there, then that could just be a bit of profit taking coming in. If we end up holding, then then it could be kind of lights on, but a good place. These VWAPs, again, there are always levels of some type of battle that's going on. Whether or not that ends up the Bulls win or the Bears win, we obviously don't know till after the fact, but areas definitely to keep an eye on.
Watching the XLI reject there off the 136.50s. Of course, industrial area, really a concern in this space now.
Yeah.
So looking to see if there's going to be some further downside. Cat, anything in the farm and heavy construction, looking for downside. Also, like a name like GE that was doing so well. Could this start to cause maybe some change in trend, right? This stock has just been an absolute monster. All the boomers are still upset, but I'm not upset. Let's see what happens with GE. All the boomers get so upset with this name, man. I kind of I was annoyed about that, because that's why it's so important to understand your generation a little bit, because I started talking about GE early in kind of 23, and I was like, man, this is doing so well, guys. This is starting to break all the trends. Technically wise, it just looked awesome as it was coming out of this kind of like 3-4 year kind of struggle, 5-year struggle, right? And then as it was going in the 80s, going towards 100, I asked a bunch of and I'll dare say it, boomers about this, and they were like, "No, GE's never coming back. It's horrible."
Yeah. Well,
That's how it goes, guys.
It's, they always say it's
good move in Soxel, good move in the Qs. Let's see if it holds now.
Yeah, we're close to this high end of the range here on the SPY. But yeah, and I talk to traders with that all the time. Traders that cut their teeth during the great financial collapse, they're usually perma bears, right? And same with, you hear before that people who are the dot-com bubble, they're often perma bears as well. So it ends up being one of those things where, it becomes very hard to break yourself of the habit of, if you started at XYZ area, then trying to get to the point where you're more okay with kind of whatever's going on there.
Guys, I just made a big mistake and covered myself. This is not going to be cash that's accepted, but when you make a big mistake, you fix it.
Good.
It could have been really costly there. Somehow I added an extra fat-fingered 0. So instead of getting 300 shares of Soxel, I went and grabbed 3,000 shares of Soxel. That could change the price really quickly, right? So it jumped to 135 to 64, but that's not going to count because it's not 30 seconds and it's not 10 cents. Of course, we have some rules that you got to follow by on the account, and so what this will essentially do, it'll move my balance up, but it won't actually show it in the dashboard. The dashboard will show that I'm a little bit further down from this. So, hey, it is what it is. And I'll just see what happens now moving on. I wanted to get in there right there, 62s. It made sense for like the recovery, right? So just get in here on the pullback, look for the trend line break, and the throwback look to hold. So trend line break, get in here, and then now look for that low to kind of hold on the 58 and take the high here towards the 25. We'll see what happens. It's a good trade setup, but just I was like, you know what? Let me just cut it here. Let me be smart. And I waited 1 second. It was like down 45, and I was gonna cut it there. I was gonna take the 45 down, but then it just jumped up, and I luckily got 135. Like, you know what I mean?
Again, and we've said it before, and I guarantee you we'll be saying it again. That's what you have to do as a trader. Hey, you make a mistake, you got to punch out, whether it's for a win, whether it's for a loss. You just move on. If it's not part of your plan, you admit
to it, right? You admit to it. That's the hardest thing. Most traders will, and they do it, and then they see green. They're like, oh no, but maybe just leave it on. It's green. No, that could be a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah, and you will make mistakes. You're a human, right? Even myself, who's pretty quantitative, right? I fat finger buttons all the time, make mistakes all the time. It just absolutely will do it, and the only thing you can do is get out the moment you realize it's a mistake, because it's not part of your plan. So if you're holding on to that thing, you're gambling. It's just a pure gamble. It's not a trade that you want to make. Now, in some cases, maybe sell part, hold, get yourself down to the original position. I've heard people say all that. I don't agree with that. I think you should just do exactly what Mitch did. Just punch out of everything and then take a deep breath.
Take a second, dude. Take a second.
Let the heart rate come down a little bit. If you still want the trade, great. You can get back in. Quite often the beauty of trading, and the beauty of trading the way we do it in a smaller retail way, is we're not Warren Buffett. It's not going to take us 6 months to a year to get into a position. We're going to get in. We can get in, we can get out. And then if we want to get back in, we just pop right back in, right? So
one area I'm looking to see if we can recover, and this is the area where I feel could be one of the strongest sectors of the year, is just financials. So I'm keeping a close eye on the XLF today. Stoxel just made another attempt. Now there's about 4 bottoms off the 2460. So that's a good sign. Now Deere starting to go down. This is one that I'm looking at potentially shorting here. But we are getting a little bounce there in Stoxel. So I'm looking to see if it can hold above VWAP to show me that maybe the Qs can come back today. If this goes and breaks at 2460s, I'll look for the takedown back below the VWAP on the Qs.
Yeah, I'm just
What's
watching.
up holding the Qs right now? That's what I'd like to see. What components holding the Qs up?
Yeah, we are. This is why. Let's go back to SPY here.
CEG, big move today. I'll mention that at least.
And we are just, here is VWAP again. Where am I? There am I.
Got you, my friend. I got it.
There we go.
Boom.
Fighting for the button. But right, so there's VWAP. There's the purple lines VWAP, and we are just right back there. So we've not been able to really get above this black line's pre-market high. This black line's pre-market low. You can see it's a very basic technical analysis. We haven't really been able to, we ticked above it and then we came back down. And now we've gotten back to VWAP 2 or 3 times. So we're still in chop mode. It's a good time to just kind of hang out and see this TPX. I'm seeing it's breaking down under VWAP. I may take just a little bit of a short. And we'll talk about why and bring this up here. So I'm working on an indicator and trading view for this, but the main idea of a lot of the day traders I talked to while I was in New York was looking for this exact setup. So something that has an early run, breaks VWAP, and then comes back down and then cannot hold it. The target is the 2-day VWAP. So you're looking for the VWAP from the prior day as well, which I just drew in here in purple. So the idea is we get a move from here, we go to here. That's what our good friend Kenny Glick, I guess, does all day, every day. He calls it the faux show bro, because first you fake out, right? And then you shake them out and then you break out. So again, that's
this is
is like,
I love this, right? Why, Michael? Because as someone that, and I say it now, guys, the VWAP doesn't have I personally think, as much edge as it used to have on intraday charts, right? And that's why you go more on the anchored side of things, right? And I think that's one thing that I've seen. I've seen too many people play what's called the VWAP bounce. That's playing this trade and essentially playing those traders. The psychology is to catch the bounce right back up, buy the dip, right? This is breaking that buy the dip mentality and essentially shorting those traders. But I also like hey, give it a chance to start pushing up here. And what do you also see on this chart? You see 1 wick, 2 wicks, 3 wicks.
Yeah.
The rule of 3, right? The way that I talk about it, right? So 3 rejections usually brings it to support right now, kind of what we're seeing, right? And then at that point, what I look to see is, can you get just one more rejection? Reject that VWAP, or give me a wick to the upside, and then watch the bids come in, right, on the price action and things like that can help you for this strategy. I liked it. I like it. It's a known strategy on the opposite side that can start giving edge to traders because they're trading an old strategy essentially.
Yeah, and so the idea again, it's you're looking for mean reversion, you're looking for gap fades, things like that. So, does ideally the stock gaps up, then it starts to run a little bit, and that gets retail chasing and everyone involved, and then you're just using this VWAP as your entry point. So I actually did just take a little bit of short there. So I'll stop it above this prior high, this the place that we bounced and failed from, and then I'm targeting this 2-day VWAP. So I like it because you see that it's very systematic. And again, I came in here on day 1 and told you guys I make all my money swing trading. I just not a good day trader at all, but this seems like something I could probably take a trade or 2 a day, call it a day and go home, and then I could systematize it. So you can see I'm working with this and building this into trading view. So hopefully it will just alert me when I'll build a list in the morning of things that are gapping up and gapping down, and it will just ping me and say, hey, look to trade this thing. So, not saying that this is the end of days or anything, but the 2-day VWAP, this is the average price from today and yesterday. And it quite often I saw when I was sitting there watching with him can be an area that price is drawn to, and if it breaks through, great. If it doesn't, it ends up being an area of at least congestion. So one quick example would just be Nvidia from if this will load up, Nvidia from yesterday. So I ended up taking a trade here, and the idea was pretty much the same, right? So Nvidia gapped up in the morning, like Mitch was talking about when he was trading off the yesterday. See if I can draw that in, and it spent some time above VWAP, and then when it broke down VWAP here in the afternoon, then just kind of sold off all day. So where it stopped here, you can see this purple line, this is the 2-day VWAP. It stopped here for like an hour or so. So I got out there. It continued to fall for the rest of the day, but I was still happy with that because it's just a nice simple target. I didn't have to think too much about it. I can take my target and move on. So speaking of Nvidia, I am watching this for the same potential idea, the same potential move is that, if we spend some time in the morning, the first half hour or so below VWAP, and then get some sort of strong break up, then right, eventually, again, just trying to fade these gaps, these extreme moves. Nice little idea.
All right, one stock that's pulling back right now that has been hot, it's China stock. So BABA pulling back here, looking interesting. If we're going to get this kind of rebound day, I kind of like these China names. And I feel like too many people have already missed out on the China trade. Even though there's like this talk of tariffs and things like that, I'd keep an eye on it, man, because there's something telling me that this is just an opportunity on the throwback look for like FXI right there on the trend line. We'll see what happens to these large cap China names.
So yeah, part of the big chat with Dan Ives, which if you guys don't know, you look him up. He's just he's with Wedbush, massive tech investor, been classified as a perma bull, but he's been right. So, it's kind of hard to do that. And we chatted with him about China.
Yeah.
He said, listen, no one was surprised when Trump got voted in that there was going to be tariffs on China. So that's been priced in 1,000 times over. He's like, so basically China's in a situation where any news that isn't horrible that comes out, and he was of the impression, and I'm kind of with him, that China just rips. So he's just looking for any news that just isn't the worst news in the world. Doesn't have to be good news, just a little bit less. So if the tariffs right now are 10%, that's what everyone thought they'd be. He's like, if they go down to 8%, he thinks China is ripping. So I agree. Full disclosure, talking my book, I own BABA and FXI and some JD.com as well. So
that's it, man. I definitely agree with that. I think it's a lot of times I look at the trade that is not being viewed at yet still going up. One of them that isn't being talked about is China. Why is it not being talked about? Because big money wants to make their money first. That's what I'll tell you guys. A lot of the time, I look to see what is held back from the media, essentially. Like the quantum talk for a little while, it wasn't even in the media. Why? People want to make their money first, man. I'm telling you guys, the big boys, they know how to press something down, wait till they make their money, and then they deliver it and sell it to you. Like they literally just sell it to you, right? And I think that's one thing that I look for. A lot of the times I'm looking to see if I can find a trend that isn't being talked about. Then watch for confirmation using indicators, things like that, to show you that, hey, you're not the only one seeing this. The indicators are also noticing it also. Then you go looking in the streets, like I talk about Twitter, things like that, to see if you're not the only one, right? Are you the only one? If you're the only one, well, then maybe, maybe you're catching something that is just a fake out, right? Or something like that. But if you start to notice there's a couple of people, they're bottom fishing in that space, and being able to have actual like explanations on why this could be bottoming, that can be your sign. All right, guys, looking around at the scanners right here, getting a scanned alert here, KBSX, showing me on the scanners here. We'll see what happens on this one. It's the steel play, a brand new steel play, it seems like. I need to take a look at this. KBSX, new steel play. You heard about a new steel play, Michael? I know I haven't heard of it.
Where is this from? Is that
I just have to figure. I have to find out, man. I'll tell you that. This is how you find trends sometimes, right? See a brand new stock up. Let's find out why it's up. fear is starting to get cut down a little bit, guys. So that's actually looking pretty decent on that trade. We're starting to see a
Yeah,
little bit of a pullback in the market here. I'm sure you're seeing it
yeah.
too, man. So let's see if we actually get some breakdown. I just feel like we're just staying in a range today, and we can maybe stay in that range all day. So I'm trying my best to wait and wait.
Yeah,
Is
we
that what
have
you're
talked,
saying,
and we
Michael?
talked about this a lot as we talk about Max Payne theory, right?
Hmm.
Everyone comes in today all jacked up because, right, Bitcoin was crashing on the weekend and everything is selling off, and we're
Yeah,
down a
man.
1.5%. So there, it's funny, we had a chase and a undercut of the highs or the over, right? Broke through the highs, failed, spent some time around VWAP. Now we're back at the lows. There's my pre-market low line. Wouldn't be shocked if, yeah, exactly what you said, Mitch. If we kind of break down here and then maybe fail and then come back up, that wouldn't surprise me either. So yeah, right now we're just consolidating. The only thing that I've done so far is TPX, which again I'm just shorting off of the breakdown of VWAP. It could be one of those things if this thing just ends up chopping around all day too. Who knows? But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the setup is like right now. So I think it's interesting there too. I think you're having a longer term, like 15-minute resistance hold as support right now, and you're getting that opportunity to recover it. If it can go back to 66, cut it one more time, I think you're good, my friend. It's one of those where I'm just seeing on TPX chart because I'm even looking at it too, and I love to look at it and say, okay, so Michael's short on this. What's the long setup too, right? So I see it right there. But like a bigger
yeah.
time frame setup, a nice break, trying to hold that. But if it rejects that right here, that's the setup, right? And that's how it is a lot of time with any trade, right? You're going to see multiple trade probably setups on both sides. That's what trading's about, man.
Well, it's good to be, and this is one of the advantage I think of people that like lawyers and everything for trading is you have to look at both sides. So,
Yeah.
because that's your out. So for me, just like you mentioned there, that trend line that also lines up with VWAP. It also lines up with these highs that we talked about. If we go into the 1 minute, we can go here, right? Look at all the topping tails that happened up in this 67-ish area. So yeah, if we lose that, we move higher. That's my out. I take my loss, move on. I actually interviewed Brett Steenbarger for one podcast that I'm a part of recently, and he mentioned something that was super interesting, that he found that a lot of the traders that he talks to, the best ones are ones that not only can get out of a position very easily, but actually flip and punch in long on that same idea when it fails. He notices that's a pretty rare ability to do. But it's one of those that if you're wrong, quite often the other side is right. So, sometimes it's like if you have a level and that's a very important level and you think the level is going to break and everyone else in the world thinks it's going to hold, if it holds, then you probably good to flip your position, right? So might be maybe something I end up doing in TPX. Who knows?
Yeah, one of the cool things, we actually have a reverse button on Trader Evolution, guys. So if you guys don't know, right there on your charts, you can set up the hot button to essentially do the reverse of the trade, right? And so, of course, make sure that you understand what this is going to do before you use it. But if you look, I'll show you right now here on the screen here, you guys see the close and reverse button. So reverse all positions by selected symbol and account, right? So it's going to be on the selected symbol that you're on if you click that button. One that I'm looking at, your similar strategy that you just mentioned on Boeing. So seeing that Boeing right around the VWAP, right? And it's pulled back, made that push back towards the VWAP, started to reject it here. So I'm looking for essentially the bull trap. So trap some bulls one more time. Give me a fake out spike to like 175 here and start to make it look like it's going to go to 175.50, and then don't even give me a close above 175.50 here. I can see it taking out 174 and heading to the 173. And why Boeing? Well, for me, this is a clear example of a company that has crazy amount of international supply chain disruptions from tariffs.
Yeah. And that's what, again, we want to look at is that, there's going to be kind of tariff winners and tariff losers. And if you can figure out which one's going to be which, and then you also have to guess how long the tariffs are going to ask. There's A lot of the people, again, that I spoke to when I was chatting in New York that do this kind of stuff with the more macro, they think that this is just a giant bargaining chip, right? That
Mhm.
he's going to go out, he's going to talk tough. And the beauty of that is that brings people to the table, and then they sit down and he's negotiating from a place of strength, and then gets a deal done and away goes. But even if they last for just a couple months, that's going to hurt at least 1/4 of earnings. So
Yeah.
where this thing starts to get wild is if you end up hearing this in earnings reports, if you end up hearing things like tariffs being mentioned in Apple's earnings or in Boeing's earnings or whatever. But what we're looking for, and I like that, I've added that to the list as well, Mitch, is we're just looking for overextension. We're just saying, hey, we get a little too crazy on one side? That's kind of a lot of what day trading is, just looking for someone who's got a little, get a little too wild to the upside, a little too wild to the downside. And because trend following takes time.
Yeah,
So,
one thing I talked about is looking for penny stocks with some news out there. And right now, Aurora Mobile getting a nice little move here. Mobile companies have been really kind of under watch to see what happens here. But I'm looking into this because this one had been halting around multiple actions lately. Of course, this one has some action, operates and generates its revenue from where? From the People's Republic of China.
Uh-oh.
You got to catch things, guys. You got to catch things. So this company has major exposure there. It's actually getting a pop, which is the interesting part, right? So we'll see what happens there. Look at this stock, right? It seems like a dead cat bouncing there, but that's just how it goes, right? Fills the gap, starting to bounce a little bit. Shorts probably, I'm thinking covering here is what you're seeing. And why you're seeing this pop, to me, short squeeze, right? So we'll see what happens there.
So if we end up selling for this new strategy that, again, I'm trying out, and I've actually opened a new eval account just to test this one strategy.
Love it.
I was interested. Meta here, right? So you can see we're above the VWAP. We did the exact thing, right? We're up on the open. We're up from the close, which is wild considering. Holding here. So if we can hang out, if we end up later in the day breaking VWAP, holding below it, then we target the 2-day VWAP, which, again, this indicator is supposed to draw for us, but something wonky is going to go on here. I'm going to have a chat with Claude, who wrote this for me, just to see, because, we're right at the 2-day VWAP right now. So we would look for a little bit of a flush lower, maybe, so 688 is where VWAP is. Maybe we try to go for 5 or 10 points from something like that. That'd be super interesting. But that is if the SPY lets go, and could, because, right, we were at these lows a couple minutes ago, we rallied up, we hit VWAP, we failed there, and now we're starting to push lower again. So we undercut those lows. So it'll be interesting to see if we end up breaking those lows, or have we just broken the highs to fake those people in, and now we've broken the lows to fake those people in, and we just close here. Who knows? But yeah, it's a choppy one. It's a choppy day. Right? Again, still only have taken that one trade. I've got my stop way up near highs for TPX. I've got a kind of a 1-to-1 going on. I'll lower my stop as things go. But if we close over those wicks, I'll end up exiting. But so far, not too much. On the swing trading side of things, because, again, that's where my bread and butter is. I'm not doing anything till this afternoon. Just at least until noontime. I just want to give time for the market to chill out, to make up its mind. We have, again, a lot of emotions. So we talk about this all the time. High volatility shop, low volatility shop, right? There's times where the market's choppy because nobody cares. There's just nothing going on in the market that day. And those are one things. And then there's high volatility shop where everybody cares about what's going on in the market. And that's what we're in today, where you have big emotions fighting one way or another. So as it seems, we're starting to break down under pre-market lows. So we'll see what happens there. I actually have this up somewhere, the SP 500. And the reason I have this is the CFD. So this is going to actually open up when futures CFDs open up as well. So it's pretty close. It's actually open up a little bit longer than the futures are, right? So you can see this is the gap that we had on Sunday night. So we're still well above that price right there. And now we've just been consolidating sideways pretty much since the gap up. So just more of what we're saying is that, hey, there's a lot of emotions going on right now. There's people buying dips and there's people selling rips. And to be honest, I think that's kind of the market we're going to be in for a while because, if in doubt, zoom out. We're still just right in the middle of that range. We're dead set in the middle of this range. So I expect this chop to continue, and I'm just going to be looking for things to play within that chop. So for now, the only plays again are TPX, and then I'm going to watch to see if we can reclaim the VWAP on, say the SPY or the Qs or something like that. That might end up being a play, but I don't think that's going to happen until the afternoon if it ends up happening at all.
Yeah, I think today is definitely one of those days where you get a lot of trade setups and you wait to see them really develop. Like one of the ones I'll give you guys here is WPM. So I'm looking into gold, right? And I looked at RSI, right? Started to look into the RSI, into the sector. And I'm looking to see what's really leading to the upside, right? So I get AU right at the top, AU trending at like never before, RSI at 93, right? So GLD kind of made sense here, but I like this WPM because I look at the daily chart and beautiful levels right all over each other, right? And so really nice looking level trying to break 63.50s here. I'm looking for one more dump into the 63 spot. So come back here to the 90 MA, shake the buyers on the highs right now, and then rip through it. That would mean what? Q's maybe coming back towards the highs here and then the flush coming back down, right? So more chop playing in here. So I could jump in right now, but it's right on the chop spot, right? So we'll see what happens if it starts to pull back here. I'd like it just below 63, near 62.90s. It'd look pretty. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that chop I think is kind of the key of today. I was just going through some of the ETFs from the open here, and just nothing is really happening. But it's not one of those nothing is happening because we're just moving sideways, right? As we just showed, we broke pre-market highs. Now we've broken pre-market lows. We've tested VWAP from the top and underneath and everything under the sun. So, again, this is a SPY chart where we broke pre-market lows and now we're back above them. So this is why I love simplifying technical analysis like this, right? This line, again, is just the pre-market highs. This line is just the pre-market lows. Nothing crazy at all one way or another on either of these. You see no like weird bat patterns or million indicators or anything. The idea is, are we going to hold under pre-market lows? If so, it's probably going to go lower. If we're hold above pre-market highs, probably going to go higher. And when we're in the middle, we sit on our hands. We take our hands off the keyboard and we say, okay, something's going to happen. We don't know what that is, but we'll see. So so far, right, it's favoring the bears because we are holding under that pre-market low. We have to go, okay, if we are going to be bearish, these are the things that we're going to look for. But same with, right, my TPX trade, nothing is happening. Right? We're just kind of smack dab in the middle of this range. So haven't done anything except, again, I'm still short from there. It's holding under VWAP. That's all I want to see. So then again, the idea, the 2-day VWAP is sitting around, let's say $65. So if we get a move from $65, that'll be real happy. That will put me into an okay profit. So I end up going with the 80K limited deal, Mitch, which just looking at that was such a good deal on that guy.
Yeah, no, it was a great deal. That's the one that I got the 2000. I actually extended it. And that's one thing that I would tell a lot of traders out there is that some traders struggle with these evals because they try to do it in the 45 days, right? And the 45 days are good. But at the same time, I say just keep working to try to get over that 50% spot because that's going to make you feel a lot more confident in your abilities. And then once you get to that 50% spot, if you need to slow it down and it take longer, that's okay too. I think that's what a lot of traders get wrong in this is that they get really close. They get within like maybe 600, 700, and they're trying to like kind of just jump for one trade. I just want to take this next trade to get me to the end. And that's what I did on the smaller account this time around that helped. I just started to go for some really small base hits.
I would, and I would say with all of these, right? So I don't know if you know this, Mitch, but I did a bunch with the Fivers. I interviewed with them. I got some pretty good payouts. You can actually see my interview on YouTube if you look it up. But And that was kind of my thing as well, is that you want to budget months, for not just in money wise, but in time wise,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to say, so I would say, if you're looking at the price of these accounts, just kind of say to yourself, it's like, okay, that's the price of the account. But I just want to budget, say it takes me 4 to 6 months, even, who knows, like go real slow. And then the beauty is you'll learn a lot while you're doing that. And then if you're done faster than that, great. And if you're not, that's okay as well. But yeah, just don't try to take them out all in one shot. I think that's probably where most people end up getting in trouble. That's where I got in trouble the first couple times that I tried. Is, you know, I said, okay, well, great, I got this account. And then in my head, I'm just saying, okay, well, let's just, how quickly can I pass it, as opposed to reminding myself that I'm not very good at day trading, so I should take a step back and I should, you know, develop a couple simple trading strategies and then just apply them over the long term, which yeah, so definitely make sure you understand that, yeah, you can keep going, you can extend those things. So don't look at that time constraint. You know, that's one of the things that I think weighs on a lot of traders, but just don't let it. Just say, hey, I'm going to budget out and pretend that it's going to take me multiple months to pass this thing. And if I'm done quicker, great. If not, I'll just keep swinging, right? So we have now undercut the pre-market lows and the day's low again and have started to rally yet again. So yeah, we're continuing to digest. We are continuing to figure this out. I really need to figure out what's going on with this PSIL. That's Mitch, you know everybody. You should get a psychedelic investor. Well, when we've talked offline, I've owned a bunch of my med, and I still do.
You know what? We're gonna get on this. We're gonna get on this, man. Right now they're super all about the HVAC advisor shares. But it's about to get traded this week. It hasn't come out. It's a new ETF of advisor shares. But I know Dan Heron's I could message him and he'd come on an instant. So I also know
we're up 7%
a lot of the
today.
people in here. Yeah, and
right?
there's some good space. And the reason why is there's a lot of, I think, and I have to really kind of confirm the dates for you guys, but Cybin has a lot of kind of trials that are going in phase 2 and things like that are really close to data coming out, right? So that's what I'd look at. Take a look at the leaders in this, right? You're talking kind of, and I like how this has like different names, right? So in PIS and PSIL, you're gonna have different exposure, right? There's Numinous, there's Cybin, there's MindMed, right? There's Compass. There's so much, guys. So definitely take a look into it. I think one of the things to understand, though, too, is that this one has a lot of they do it with swaps and things like that. I think in the long run, I think I'm betting on a certain one of these names versus the ETF, just because I've done enough research inside of them to see where I feel like there's some names that I'd like more than others, like this Numinous Wellness. Not the biggest fan of, guys. This has been around for a long time, but I mean, just take a look at the chart. To me, these types of charts are never coming back, guys.
Yeah.
Like I just don't find it like it's ever going to come back, right? And then so if it has that exposure there, that could actually weigh down some of the return, right? Mm-hmm. If one of these names do really well, yeah, the ETF is going to still do decent, but I feel like it just has some exposure that's spread out that I'm not a fan of. So what do I got to do? I got to look in here and make my own basket. Right.
Well, and that's, so it's and I always say this with ETFs, it's risk and return, and then how much research you've done. Right. So for example, you know, if you're just like, listen, I think psychedelics are going to do well, I want to allocate a certain amount of my portfolio net worth to those things. And the reason we're talking about them, let me just bring up the chart here, is just because on a day where this is the dashboard, everything is red except commodities, which we've talked about, right? Because you're looking for commodities made in the US that won't get taxed. They're the only beneficiary to tariffs. And then right here, we have PSIL up 7%. So this is just, again, as a technician, I don't spend too much time looking into these things when it comes to fundamentals. It's just, there is something here. There is some sort of fundamental relative strength that's making, when investors are running for the doors, they're not running on PSIL. So that's why we're chatting about it. But yeah, so you can either, if you like it, you can buy the ETF. You have to, by law, report the holdings. So this has to update every single day. So it's not hard to go and say, what do these guys hold? You just type in, I just typed in PSIL holdings, and this was the top result. So you can look through them, see if there's ones that you like. But yeah, it's whether or not you want to take the risk and go kind of really into the weeds and try to figure out which one's going to have it's all a rush to market, right? Which one is going to get FDA approved first, and which one's going to be able to go from there. Or if you just think as a sector they'll do well, then you take it. But what you got to know is that it's easier to be right on what sector is going to do well, so you're reducing your risk, but you're also going to reduce your overall return. So the question is, where on the risk spectrum are you when it comes to ETFs? Same with things like NLR, I think is another great example, and people might be a little more familiar. NLR is a nuclear ETF. It has actual uranium, but then it's got some large nuclear reactors, some of these new smaller nuclear reactors. They're all going to be inside this name. So if nuclear is going to be a thing, this thing's going to do very well. And that might be easier than betting on which nuclear reactor is going to be the thing, whether it's going to be these nano nuclears or the big guys or whatever. So yeah, risk reward, right? It's not, nothing's right, nothing's wrong, but away we go. So TPX,
man.
moving.
Good Lord, guys, I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. So I have different charts, right? And so I was in my mind, like I was like thinking, and I'm like, man, all right, so set up my playlist watch. And I was setting up my playlist watch, and then I'm like, all right, I'm watching it. And then I realized, hold on, I'm looking at XLF here, but it should have been Tesla on this right chart. I have MPC, right? DE that I was looking at. MPC upside, Deere downside. Tesla should have been here to the downside. I go and I look, and this is what Tesla's chart looks like. Classic VWAP fade.
Yeah.
Even Kenny Glick would be smacking me right now.
Uh-huh.
This one, weak catalyst, right to the VWAP right out the gates, down to 376. This should have been the stock to go after today. Definitely messing this up because it was obvious to me that Tesla would struggle in this environment. That's why I said also look at Ford. Ford looking interesting here. Rivian looking interesting. I'm liking these. If they're going to continue down on the downside, I think Rivian might go to single digits. So
why is Tesla getting hit so much harder than the rest?
Just
think
because
it's just more China exposure, or
one is already that exposure really affects it, right? I mean, it does sell cars in China.
Yeah.
It sells cars in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more about the margin concern, guys. This is why the auto manufacturing space is not sexy at all. Tesla is no longer wanting to even be an automaker company.
Yeah.
Perfect. If they could push off the production to someone else that could do it right, I'm sure they would, but they can't. Right? They know that no one else can do it right like they can. So they're just going to keep doing the cars. But the focus is the robo-taxi and the humanoids, right? The robots. That's the focus now. It's not these cars. The margins on these vehicles are so tiny with inflationary pressures going higher and tariffs going out there. They're essentially going to be close to losing on these vehicles. And Tesla's the one that could get close to staying above that profit margin, right? I think this completely wrecks GM's outlook completely. So many people were positive on this company for this year. I'm the complete opposite. Why? I think used cars are the move. I think KMX, Carvana are the move in this space. Look how Carvana's come back. But even Carvana is going to struggle with this, right? But I think that that's what you see here. In the long run, GM struggling, because at the end of the day, the margins are going to keep going down on these EVs that cost so much to make. So we'll see what happens here, guys.
Interesting. And I could see an argument, to be honest, for Carvana to actually be a little bit of a winner here. Because if the price of cars, we know the price of cars is going to skyrocket with tariffs, right? Everything is being made from different countries, right? And they're coming here. But Carvana just repurposes cars. So if the price of new cars is going to do really, really well or go really, really high, then wouldn't people be more incentivized to buy these used cars out of these I've yet to see one. I've been to the States so many times, I've yet to see one, but these vending machines of cars that Carvana
You know
has.
what? I have one down the street. I'm gonna have to go take a picture.
You should. I actually kept my eyes open because it was all over New York, and I knew there wouldn't be any in Manhattan. But I went Newark. This is what I flew in and out of. So I'm like, keep my eyes out as the Uber drivers driving, just see if I could find one. But yeah, I could see the used car space doing very well, because you better believe that a Ford and GM and all these guys have to pay more for their cars, or for their steel. They're just passing that price down to the consumer, right? So that's why we know that tariffs are 100% inflationary. So if new things are going to cost more, that might be another place, because I've been racking my brain for a bit, just trying to say, okay, what's going to do well? Natural gas, I have oil, I have all these things make perfect sense. But yeah, this might be one as well where we take a look at. Now, I just saw something enter my blotter, so we can take a look at here. So I'm still working on the algorithms, and a lot of what I'm doing with these algorithms is just now sending orders right off the open. So I run the systems. I'll bring in my trader evolution screen. I've got one that's just like 10 order entry boxes, and before the open, when I get up, I fill out all these orders. The market opens, I just hit go on all of them. So this is one with Peloton, where this is a revision to the mean system. So the idea is here, we are just playing overbought, oversold on these. We're looking for something that's a little bit too extended to the downside. I'm setting out 5 orders for 5 individual names to the downside, 5 orders to the upside, and just playing those. So just wanted to let you guys know that Peloton just came in, just bought some Peloton at 721. So again, purely algorithmically done. Just looking for names that are a little bit too extended to the downside. But when I zoomed out on this name, when I was doing my research, it's not a bad looking little zone I've got highlighted here of support and resistance. Now, fundamentally, I don't know why this company still exists. It's an iPad strapped to a bicycle. Apple Fitness is amazing. You can use, all that with whatever you want. But technically, right, $7-ish, $6-7. Big area was support back here and here, resistance here, here, and here. So we've got this big zone going on here. So maybe it comes into that zone, a little bit of a bounce. But again, this is just a day trade based off some systems I've been working on here.
I'm seeing another one of your VWAP setups here that you've been talking about, NNE. Very similar, right? It'd be maybe on a deeper time frame if you want to make it the clear look, but look at the 5-minute, right? I'd give it the chance to recover the VWAP, maybe get towards 37. Once it hits that, if it doesn't go straight to 38, I could see it maybe playing back to 35, right? Yep. Very similar strategy. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and NNE, so another super important level here on the daily. Again, full disclosure, I have a little bit of this guy from the swing trading side of things, around 30. 31.
The swinger, swinging it, man.
That's how the family gets fed on the swing trading side.
Hey, the table. That's how we put the bread on the table. They say, right?
But yeah, you can see I've highlighted the zone because I think it's a do or die zone. So I think
it is, right, man.
If we lose this, if we lose this, that 30-ish bucks, I'm definitely not going to be holding this thing because this massive trend would finally get broken. I think probably everyone in the world's watching, right, this trend on the way up. If we lose this zone, we're breaking that trend. All the Momo in this name's gone. So yeah, we're at a very do or die point for not just that SMR, which I have some as well, right? Just again, same kind of thing, just buying support on this name. So yeah, if we lose these zones, it might be game over, at least for a little bit on some of these nano nuclear names.
All right, there's a little price spike in the Qs. Something's going on, guys. Take a look to see if you see any tariff talk, because something's happening here, guys. Definitely getting a spike in the Qs really quickly to the 513s here. So there you guys have it. I'm going to be putting a bet on WPM right now. That got a nice spike off the 6290s here. But I'm going to probably put on both sides bets here as we're getting market moves. When the market moves, volatility, let's go playing, guys. Let's go playing. I don't know what it is right now. There's something news related happening. Watch out there.
And just hilariously, right, these are the two black lines. So the pre-market low, we undercut that low and then just ripping now. So we're right at VWAP. It'll be interesting to see if it holds. Now, if it is news that has come out that tariffs are going to be less or whatever, just don't
WPM.
Right? Make sure you have your stops, whatever, because we saw what happened Friday. So Friday, the initial news was reported by Bloomberg, some big names that tariffs were going to be delayed a few days. And then Trump came out on Twitter or social or whatever his thing is and just said, no, that's not true. So, and me and Mitch know we've been trading the last time the Trump admin was in a lot of that. A lot of, this gets leaked and then he comes out and counters it and all of this. Where with the Biden, the last president, he's going to do more official press releases. Trump isn't an official press release kind of guy. He's just going to tweet at some point. So just be very careful. There's just a lot of news comes out and then turns out that news is wrong. So, but can't deny this price action. If we go into a 1 minute chart, we can see just rallying to new highs here.
Yeah.
This could be an epic bear trap that we're seeing here, where we have this zone right here.
Yeah, the interesting part, I'm seeing gold rise with it, right? That would be the conflicting noise, right? The why the Q's rising with gold rising also, right? And so watching the action here, right? I'm in WPM looking for that bet. I got about 400 shares to the upside on the main account here. Looking for it to hold any 63 pullback. We just bounced off of the kind of the 9 EMA, but also watching like a stock like Nano Nuclear that was up, now really quickly approaching that 38. That's a good sign for the bulls if they can start taking that, right? We just talked about a rejection of 37. That didn't happen. A quick move, almost to 38.
Yeah, sorry. I was doing some buying on the swing trading side of things too, seeing what we're seeing in the market. I had some triggers come through this morning that I was just kind of waiting to see what would happen. So, my Peloton's doing well. Just
look at the Qs now through the high.
But yeah, now we're back through the
all
highs.
Those bears out there getting the pain trade on now.
Yeah, so this is one of those, if people, it's what we talked about, right? And again, a little pat in the back for us. Trying not going to do this too much, not to get a little too cocky, but we talked about this where we're going to be in a high volatility chop, and if you look at this chart, it is the absolute pinnacle of high volatility chop. Right? We're breaking lows, we're breaking highs. Right, so what I'm looking at is actually, I can bring this up from the swing side of things because I know some people are interested. It says ELF, right? And this is just another revision to the mean kind of play. We have earnings in a little bit. So, Thursday. I might have to get out of that quick, but just oversold and then down to this support zone right here. So just a pretty simple trade. And we need to, right? We're just looking to see if we can get a little bit of a bounce after being down from, 130 down to 90 in a row. And I'm just looking at this thinking, now, could this also be a fake out? And then we end up breaking lows? Absolutely, right? Anything could happen in the market. However, this looks to me like we were undercutting the lows. Bears were starting to pile in heavy. Something came out. I still haven't seen it. Let me get on Twitter here.
Yeah, there's something, man. Something was said.
My boy Evan. You follow Evan on where's my boy Evan on Twitter?
So I'm getting a hard test on WPM. Might get stopped out of this one, guys, through the 6280 spot. Would be about $200 hit here. Already pressuring me right now. The bid's right on it. So essentially collecting where I think the volume is sitting. So let's see what happens here. I think it's a big watch to see if the Qs can come back down to like 514 or 513 here. If it's a real ripoff, I don't think it even comes back. I think it just keeps stair stepping higher here. So I'm watching to see what happens. Another thing that I'll do is I'll be jumping onto the limited account here soon and then actually taking my shot there to win the funded account. What did I do? Waited till I started to get some market trend, and then I'll start taking a look to see if I can nail one of these stocks.
Mexican president just said he had a good conversation with President Trump. That's all I'm seeing.
Oh, good conversation, right?
Oh, no, there we go. Mexican president said that tariffs from the U.S. are paused for a month from now.
Oh, that is as a
shout out. I have to always, right? This is one of my boys. I do Twitter spaces with these guys, but stock market news.
Shout out to him,
is
man.
the Twitter, and Evan has got 500,000 followers here. This is what he does. The guy just sits there all day and he's got 7 different news sources and just ingests them and feed them to you. So that's what happened. So 4 minutes ago, they had a good conversation. And if you notice, 4 minutes ago is kind of when this rally started. And then, a minute ago said we have paused as well. So in return, I guess the Mexican president is deploying 10,000 troops to the border to do something with drug trafficking or whatever. So long story short, I guess the nitty gritty details don't matter too much, but tariffs are paused for now and a good conversation. So it looks like there's some negotiation going on, which a lot of people knew that's what this was anyway, is right. He's going to hit you with hard tariffs and then you're going to come to him with your handout and he's going to have a bunch of demands. And if you meet them, the tariffs will be lifted. So looks like what is there? Is there a Mexican ETF? Let me look here.
One thing I did see, the VIX though. VIX, right, take a hard hit there. So VXX taking a hard hit down there to 45.83s. So that was a hard hit after the break of the 48. So just wanted to mention the VIX. One way to play this, right? VIX down, right?
EWW. That's an interesting one. EWW, if you want to take a shot here. I don't know if this thing's liquid at all.
I think the SPY could close that gap maybe back towards 598. So,
but yes, this ETF's kind of interesting. Looks like we're rallying here on the EWW, the Mexican-led ETF. So that might be an interesting play. I was just trying to think of individual companies to play. But quite often, the ETF can just be the way to go. So we've had a little spike off the news. We're pulling back a little bit. So if we hold that spike, that could be very interesting for that. So, just looking for, quick little scalps on the reaction to the news. That, again, there was a nice little meeting and one of those things where we have tariffs being paused for now. Maybe... What do you think, Mitch? 15 minutes till the end of the day. I'll do a little tariff presentation for everyone. Just to, we've been talking about this, but I think a nice slow breakdown of exactly what a tariff is, who's going to pay it, prior effects on the market, that kind of thing. I think is something I talked to our boys over at Trader TV. They all said to tell you, they said hi when I was over there. They're big fans of Trade the Pool. I know you guys are working together and just good old Canadian boys.
Yeah, I caught them on really early, and I remember even bringing on Neil on pre-market prep and different trading shows. So I like the guys. I definitely like what they stand for, and like always, man, Real's gonna recognize Real, and they're really cool guys. And you guys remember we were on there multiple times, did some conversations there. Definitely seen the downside action coming here in WPM, about to get out of it, guys. It keeps hitting, kind of like spreading out here, grabbing it all the volume around the 62.80s. I'm just trying to give it a chance to recover the 63s as I keep seeing the action come in there on WPM. But the overall market just starting to slow down after that pump, right? So now I think it's a very important thing to start looking for hourly recoveries, right? That's what I look for a lot of the times in this space here. One thing that I did see spike with that conversation, which was weird, MPC. So oil's actually getting a little bit of a spike there. That's interesting for me to see, at least. I've been looking to see when MPC could get going, and then that was a big spike there. So pretty decent spike there on the 15-minute. It just went straight up there. So, and one of the things I like about it, it's not pulling back to the VWAP, right? It's like, oh, we caught all the bears. Now we're not going to let you back in, right? And so we'll see what happens there. I'm catching oil starting to make the move. I'm looking to see what happens here. USO is right on the bottom. Can it recover VWAP now?
Yeah, so we've got the SPY holding on to these gains, right? So there's no no sign that these are giving back at all yet, which is great. So it's gotta suck to be a perma bear. It's just, if we end up, imagine if we rally, we're only down less than 1% now. So if we were to rally and close green today, that's got to be it. If you're a bear, that's got to be it, right? You got to hang up your towel there and just say, oh, I'm done. with this market because
That's
it
how it
looked
goes.
like everything was telling you that this market was going to sell, but a long way to go, right? And of course, that's I'm following my boy here just to see if he comes out with anything else, but that's just the news as I read it on Twitter, so it could very easily be something completely different. But yeah, so I'm just keeping an eye out here just to see, just in case. Like I mentioned, we saw this last time last time we had a Trump presidency. There was a lot of an event would come out and then get contradicted, and that would happen over and over and over again. So we just want to make sure that when we see a news event, that is then confirmed by some actual body, because I think what happens, little tinfoil hat, is he kind of gets mad if someone else reports his news. So he can just come out and say, nah, we're not doing that just because it got leaked. But yeah, I'm just watching my boy Evan just to see if anything comes out, then it will be something will happen as well, right?
Yeah, and delayed for 1 month can be a lot of different things and cause a lot of different effects. That's one thing I would definitely be looking at, because delay of 1 month doesn't mean it's not coming. It just means to give us some more time to figure out how we can handle this inflation or kind of this kind of pressure to our supply chain and things like that. So
right, and it's very important to note what I think a lot of people assume that these tariffs were going to be permanent or there was some sort of world-ending event going on here, but it's not that, right? This is just simply a negotiation tool. Tariffs always are, to say there is something I want from Canada and Mexico, and I will, I'll get that, right? So the U.S. in this scenario has all the leverage. So what he's doing, he's putting his thumb on the leverage and just saying, okay, I'm going to get whatever it is he wants with Mexico. It could be border security, it could be whatever, but these are just games, right? And while these games are being played, there's going to be a lot of this, this spikes up and spikes down. And again, it's what we spoke about in ad nauseum, and saying this is going to be a high volatility market, which is great if you're somebody who is active. You're somebody who is flexible. You're not, really dug in on one position or the other. If you're not, then this could be a bit of a hard time. But I think we're going to see a lot of this action where you're going to get a tweet, you're going to get a pop or a drop, and people who are in the know are going to have a good time, and people who are not are going to have a little bit of a bad time. So SPY continuing to break highs, not letting up at all. This EWW, I'm actually kind of interested. Just a pure discretionary bit of a shot here. Take a look, just basing here after some news. Not insane amount of volume, but huge gap down. Like, look at this daily chart. Huge gap down and then rallied all day to close. Now EWW is green after that news. Could be some people chasing to the long side. Could be some people trying to get involved. Some shorts covering. If they're taking this tariff bet and it turns out that is at least gone for now, that could be an interesting shot. So I'm watching this EWW to see if we can dig in here from a swing kind of time frame. Like, look how beaten up this name is. Could be a nice little bounce into the 50s, something like that. Again, just like we talked about with the psychedelics ETF, these things aren't going to be insane. They're not going to move that dramatically, but again, for my own money from a swing trading point of view, I am totally okay with that. I don't need anything that's gonna any meme stocks or anything going on here.
Looking around, trying to find a stock that's kind of getting a nice little lift off of this, and see if I can ride that up. I already set the stop there for WPM. I'm probably going to get hit about 350 on the main account. That would be a nice hit to start the week on, but already have it set there. We'll see what happens now if we start to get a pullback on the Qs. If not, then it'll probably just get hit there. Qs are still holding on. It went right to the kind of 200 on the 5-minute, but that doesn't mean too much for me. It's just starting to slow down at a spot. I'm thinking maybe we can get back there to fill some of the gap action. That'd be maybe back towards like 520 or 519s on the Qs, but that's kind of like where I could see it kind of slowing down. 519.46. We'll see if we get up there.
Yeah, just continuing to slug on, right, higher. Now we are, where are we here on the SPY? 0.85 down on the day. So at some point we were down 2. I think in the post market we were down more than that, 3 or 4. That red to green is something that I think I'm going to be super interested in if we get that. I've just been setting some alerts. Again, long way to go to get there. I think the probabilities that happening are low, but if that ends up happening and we end up getting a rip in this market that turns us green on the day, I just think that's a lot of people caught off guard, a lot of people who are going to have to go in and cover. And let's go over, we haven't looked at the dashboard very much today. Let's take a look at this guy.
Yeah.
Way more green than we started the day. We're starting to see some, I just did an A. There's my Canadian coming out. But FXI, so China actually turned green on the day, flipped big cap China. Bitcoin up 0.56%. So yeah, we're getting a lot more when it comes to different names that, these commodities, wheat, corn, gold, silver. We expected all of these because they're the US versions of what's happening here. But we have KWeb, so Chinese internet is up on the day. We have FXI. What about CQQQ? This is a lesser known one that not a lot of people follow, but CQQQ is just like the NASDAQ 100, but for China, and not green on the day, but getting there. But FXI, actually turning green. So gap down, now we're turning green. We've got this anchored view app that I've been watching on China from this all-time high, looking to see if we can get a breakthrough at that particular level. So a lot of things kind of pointing to the fact that we could be on the way here. XLP, which is consumer staples, you kind of expect that to be up, but it wasn't this morning. So I'll keep an eye on this. Bitcoin is really interesting to me to see that we have actually turned red to green there. Whoa. So we came all the way down to test this low. I did no idea we were at. See, that's my problem when I try to sleep. Bitcoin's open. So overnight, we hit almost 90,000 there on Bitcoin just to turn around and be green on the day. So that's very interesting to me.
All right, guys. Putting out a call out there. GovX. I'm long on GovX on the small account. This is the one for the funded, baby. Let's see if I get it here, guys. GovX had some AI news. I'll put it up on the screen so you guys can read it this morning. Looking for penny stocks with news and near levels that I can buy, right? So there it is. This is the strategy. I told myself, make sure that it had something, at least something out there. It has that something, and it includes Trump's name. That's all I needed to see.
Yep. So what's the number? What are we looking for? Was it 50?
So $50. $50. That's it, man. That's it. I got 200 shares. I don't need much, man. I just need it to get towards, let's see. I think it's like 230s here, but let me just get it right here. So give you guys the outlook here. 224s. So might need like a penny or two more to pay for some fees. So I'm gonna 227 essentially is what I'm looking at here. Risking about $20 on the name.
Oh, that's good. I'm rooting for you. I think
that'd
be cool to do. Cool to do live. We got 20 minutes left. That's the daily there. That's 15 minutes.
That right here is the one. I'll show you the daily. Daily's right here on the bottoming action.
Okay.
I'm trying to come back to a trend line look on the daily, right? It's trying to come back towards that line. I don't think it'll get there right now, but I'm just looking at it to see if it starts to make that move and actually breaks that. Of course, it needs volume. That's what I'm looking for. Look at the volume just change, right? And so that's what I wanted to see. 1.1 million gives me the opportunity to see if we really start to get this moving. It could wick on 190s. That's one thing to note. That's why I'm not 1,000 shares deep, right? Trying to give myself the 10 cents and share size that I can handle that.
That's good.
Another thing to look for is reversals in the quantum names, reversal in the euphoria names down. RCAT, QUBT, RGTI. Those types of names are names that I'm considering here, and I'm seeing them make good pushes with the Qs, making that next push.
Oh, good. We'll root for that. Let's do a little tariff talk, and then
let's do it. Take the wheel, my friend. I'll let you guys know if something happens.
All right. So again, this is going to be, for some people, this might be a bit basic, but I just saw so much misinformation and everything when it came to tariffs. I just thought I'd put a little presentation to say, okay, what are tariffs? Why is this happening? What is the overall effect of this? And the beauty is we've seen this game before, right? This is not new. So we can go back on the charts and we can take a look at what happened, which is the whole point of technical analysis, right? Is to try to figure out what happened in the past. Is what's it saying? The history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for. So first of all, again, big shout out to looking at Investopedia, right? Just the overall summary of what a tariff. Essentially, it is a tax on a good that gets shipped into your country. So I'm going to use Canadian examples a lot because I'm one of them. So we sell you guys a lot of wood. A lot of your houses are built with Canadian wood. Makes sense. Wood's very heavy and hard to transport. We have a whole lot of wood. You can see behind me, we don't have a whole lot of people. So we cut down the trees. We send them to you guys. That's how we make a lot of our money. So let's say you were someone who was building a house. You're buying $1,000 of wood. Well, now that's going to cost you $1,200. That's the first thing to note. Canada doesn't pay the tariffs, right? It's not it doesn't matter to us, right? What you guys pay the tariff. So the company that is buying the wood from us and building they pay the tariff. So why? The idea is that if you make Canadian wood a little bit more expensive, then it incentivizes people to go find American wood. The idea is, highlighted by this next chart, in practice, it always raised prices. This is a bit of a convoluted chart, so we won't go too much into detail. But the thing is, so if a Canadian steel plant makes steel and sends it to America, there's going to be tax on that. And then that plant is going to make auto parts with it and send it to Canada. Then there's going to be tax on that too, because we put on counter tariffs. Then we make a car out of all those auto parts and we ship it to you, and there's tax on that. So that multiple tax back and forth with the trade really increases prices, sometimes 50, sometimes 100%. And you better believe GM and Ford, they ain't paying that price. They're sending that down to the user. It's the same with Walmart. Food is going to get more expensive. The building is going to get more expensive because these companies aren't going to shrink their margins. They're going to pass the cost down to you. So two things that are happening there. One is it's going to be inflationary. The cost of goods are going to go up under tariffs. That is the biggest part of that. And the reason I think that that's going to be the most important effect is going to come to the Fed. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So why? Quickly, why does this happen? Well, this chart is showing that 78%-ish of the Canadian economy, but well over half, I've heard numbers 60, I've heard 80, that is sent to the US. That's what we do. We make stuff and we send it to you guys because you have 10 times the population. We have way more land. It's just kind of the trade that we do. And same with Mexico. About 80% gets sent to Mexico. But that only accounts for about 30% of the Americans' exports. So it's a big part of our economy. It's not a massive part of your economy. And that's what gives the US so much leverage in these wars. If we tariff everything that comes from the US, it doesn't hurt us too bad because we don't buy a lot of stuff from you. We sell things to you so that you can make things with them, right? So that's why he's pushing this leverage, and he's okay with inflating prices, which will hurt the Canadian public, is because he knows that this is a leverage point, right? 80% of our economy is roughly 15% of your economy. So he's pushing these levers because he wants something from it. Now, I think more important than it actually being a cost of goods sold or whatever, I think what the market is looking for is interest rates. If you've been trading for any length of time, we know that the Fed right now is all that matters. If the Fed is going to lower rates, it's going to be good for the economy. If the Fed is going to raise rates, that's going to be overall bad for the economy. We were on this path where the Fed was looking to lower rates. However, this new fighter has entered the fight, and this new fighter is tariffs. The tariffs, as I chatted about, will cause inflation. It's not a question of it's how much. It will cause inflation. So the question is, does that make the Fed back off what it's doing, right? Do they no longer look to lower rates? In fact, do they actually raise rates if inflation starts to spike? And that's what's really going to cause the economic hardship, I think, and when it comes to the stock market. So this chart here is basically looking at what happened last time. We had a presidency, and the beauty of this is we're going over this is because all of this happened before. Mitch knows there was a China trade war lasted a couple of years. Then we had him bullying Jay Powell on Twitter back and forth on interest rates. So this whole interest rate trade war thing, it's very important to study this chart because we've seen it before. We're just seeing it again. So let's just see what happens. So you can see this is the wide range chop that I was talking about. Let's even ignore COVID because hopefully that's an event. So let's just focus on this part of the chart right here. And this part of the chart is just showing us that we had a big spike up, massive correction, big spike up, massive correction. Even inside of this range, this is a percentage scale. You're seeing 10% moves up and down. This was very, very common from 2016 to 2020, the last Trump administration. Because of these wars, there would be a tweet about sanctions being lifted or tariffs being listed, and the market would rally, and then there'd be another tweet about them coming back on, and they would tank. So we have this playbook. So generally speaking, there was no bear market. There was no extended recession. There was nothing that economically happened for a long period of time. What happened was an increase in market volatility. So that's really the note that I want you guys to take away is tariffs are paid by the US consumer. They're very inflationary. That may affect Fed decisions on lowering rates, and it will cause a big market up or down, right? It will cause some big push around in the market. So don't look at this as tariffs is going to be the end of the days. I should sell everything and move on. Just know that this is going to increase the volatility of the market. So you got to trade accordingly. Buying breakouts in this zone and breakdowns in this zone from a longer term standpoint wasn't fun. Mean reversion trading was a lot of fun, right? Tactical pullback trades, a lot of fun as well. So this last chart is basically just looking at this first chart and saying, right, there was a roughly, I think it was 7% correction here, and then I think a 15% correction there. So this is what would happen if we fell down about 10% in the markets from where we are right now. This isn't including today's data. I made this on the weekend. And you can see that would be down to 550. That's levels that we had since September or October of last year. So again, not the end of the world, just down a bit. So if this chart is going to happen again, that's roughly what we could see. We could see 550 on the SPY. We could see potentially a little bit lower, but that's kind of the area that we want to look at on the way down. The thing that I want to really think about and ponder is that because we have this playbook from before, we've seen this exact same story played out again. Does that potentially reduce the amount, the effect of it, right? Are people a little bit numb to it, and maybe that volatility even gets compressed? If that's the case, then maybe we're just looking at 560 or so on the SPY. So just look at it as we are entering. If this is going to continue, the tariffs are going to continue. They're not necessarily bullish or bearish for stocks. They're going to be bullish and bearish for different stocks, which means increased volatility and play that volatility. So nice little breakdown, I hope, on what tariffs are if someone was confused, because it's just one of those words I see just kind of thrown out all the time now.
Yeah, and I think it's important to see both sides of the effects, right? How it affects the country that is imposing, right, the tariffs, and then also if the countries fight back and things like that. That's why I gotta say it. I don't know what's going on over there in Canada, my friend. The pressure's gonna get put on here a little bit. That retaliatory tariff, I don't know about that one, man. I don't know if you want to be pushing on Trump right now. Yeah, it was.
Well, and we don't.
It was by a guy that doesn't really chest pump too much, at least towards the U.S.
A guy, he's resigned. He's out. So a lot of people are just questioning the whole. No, it's we don't buy anything from you guys. We sell things from you guys. We buy things from China, and we sell things to you guys. So no, again, and there'll just be a lot of that. You got to remember, at the end of the day, these are just a lot of dudes who like power. That's why they're in positions of power, and they're finding, I guess, non-violent ways that they can put the screws to the other country to get something out of them. Just like we saw just a second ago here in Mexico, this EWW is just hitting new highs here, breaking out here. So this is the Mexican ETF. But yeah, it looks like, just from the tweets that I read, it was a deal for, we will back off on the tariffs, and in return, you place your military at the border to prevent border crossings. So that's
that is exactly what it is. And the Mexican officials tried to argue, well, Yeah, we'll put them there because also there's a bunch of arms being passed through the border from the
Yeah,
U.S. side of things, and
of
so
course.
of course, they battled on both sides there, right? So
Yeah, each side will come up with a story to make them save face. It's just the way politics work. But
that's just the way it works.
it's a deal. So it basically is Trump's come in, and this is his sort of Damocles, if you're someone who studies philosophy. But it's just something that he has hanging over the other countries' heads, and says, if you guys do what I want, I'll reduce the tariffs, and if you don't, I'll keep them on. So again, you'll see a lot of this. I pretty much guarantee you in the next couple of weeks, you'll probably have the same kind of story with Canada. I don't think it's so much border protection he wants from Canada. I think it's energy prices. So I think what he wants is some sort of reduction when it comes to what we're charging for energy. A lot of your guys' oil and natural gas comes from us. So again, it's just saber rattling. But again, as a trader, what we got to focus on is, what does saber rattling mean for me?
Exactly.
Again, it means volatility. It means don't necessarily buy the thing in a nice smooth uptrend, hoping that that nice smooth uptrend will continue. There's markets where that works fantastically. I don't think this is one. I think this is one, and I think the SPY is a perfect example today. Shorting the lows on the SPY looked very good at the time, and then we just ripped a new high. So I think it's more find some sort of strategy for buying dips, selling rips, looking to things to gap up to fail, looking for things that gap down to fail. That type of market, which can be very lucrative. And it's something that I think that we have a unique advantage as short-term traders, where giant hedge funds are going to be pulling their hairs out for the next 4 years because they have to make bets a long time in advance. I think that this is a really big superpower, which we kind of alone possess, where we can say, okay, right, if you guys are going to play this country game, that's great. I actually ended up taking some of this EWW in my eval account and my personal account right around this range right now, and I've just kind of been piecing it out on the way up, because this is just this is a move that didn't exist. It's not something that I thought I was going to be doing going into today. So flexibility when it's volatile is super, super key.
Can I get that sock sell trade back?
Well, the 3,000 shares.
Yeah, the 3,000 shares.
It
Was a good look. It was a good look, guys. Remember, that was back in this space here. But it is what it is, right? Looking back on it, the market bounced, right? And I think now we got to look to see what holds on. That's why I was also watching XLF, seeing if the financials can hold on. Because if there's one area I saw do well, and when Trump was president, it was the financial space. Why? Well, you can kick all that Dodd-Frank stuff out. You can kick all that stuff out of here. Regulatory concerns on the banks. I think they're going to be allowed to do whatever the hell they want, as long as they make money. So I'll be watching to see what happens in that space. JPM, of course, being the leader, catching the 9 EMA really quickly, right back up.
Yeah, so this EWW, I just took another piece out. I can actually go and show. Can I do multiple shares? No,
you just gotta cut it and then bring it back. I think we're gonna work on a way to do it. We could do it through like maybe a virtual camera share. So we'll work on something like that.
Cool. Yeah, so this is just my trade on this EWW, and the news came in here, had a little bit of pullback as it was popping up. I punched in a couple shares, and again, I'm just piecing those out on the way up. Still flat to down on TPX, just hasn't done anything. My stop again is if we get above these highs and hold, that's where I'll get out. My target is kind of down here at a gap fill. Something tells me I'll just be selling at the end of the day on this name. And then again, there's just the Peloton trade. Wish they could all look like this, but of course this is just the low, simply because the whole market started to rally. So again, the Peloton trade was just a mean reverting system. It just said, hey, this is a little bit too down on the daily chart, so we can go from there. So yeah, that's a lot of the idea behind that. But I just wanted to highlight this EWW trade of, again, something I wasn't planning on taking. I was just sitting here and I was watching the news. And as this thing goes up, I've got 200 shares left. I'll probably piece out another 100 shares on another new high break, and then I'll just hold the rest and clunk it out at the end of the day. So this is just, again, to highlight the importance of being flexible, because this is not something that I was at all planning on trading today. It wasn't part of my plan. It just popped up and said, okay, if we're going to have a massive news event, let me look at the chart and see. Because again, as we pulled back and consolidated for a few minutes and then started to break higher, just a pure momentum trade. I was going to get out on a break of VWAP, so that was my initial risk. And yeah, so far I've been piecing out very well. So eval is up for the first time in a while. I still don't expect that this is going to be the one, but I'm learning all the time. And if the algorithms and the system start working, then eventually I'll get one for sure.
Crazy bounce in Tesla right back up closer towards the opening price here. I'm looking to see what happens at that opening price to see if you get another rejection. Just based on the fact that, yeah, you're getting some bounce in Tesla and some situation in Mexico resolved itself, but I don't think it's in Mexico that's concerning Tesla. At least the tariffs, right? And so we'll see what happens. It is getting the bounce back, and you know how Tesla can be a dragon like that. If you got short, now if you didn't take the profits, well, guess what? Tesla will do it to you. He'll just be like, well, thank you. You didn't take it while you had it. So, hey, we'll see what happens there.
I think what this is, I think we had a period of depression there in the market, and that may actually turn into a period of euphoria now. Because I think what's happening now is people are just taking a sigh of relief and saying, okay, so these are just negotiation tools, the way, everyone knew, but you can't look inside the guy's head, so you don't really want to assume that wholeheartedly. But yes, it's saying, okay, there's a negotiation tool, and if those negotiation tools are, if people agree, then they'll take off the other side of that bet. So yeah, it's one of those that I think the market's just going to be a little bit relieved. I'm going to look to see what happens here on the SPY. Again, I think red to green would be the most hilarious thing to happen to the market. And what was it, Elon's quote, that the most hilarious outcome or the funniest outcome is the one we should all be rooting for, or something like that. Just because it would be pretty bad for the most amount of people if they end up if we end up doing this big gap down and then coming all the way just to close green. I think that'd be pretty funny, because a lot of people would kind of be caught offside, and all the bears that were very loud on the weekend have to be a little bit quiet.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you. I gave out this one on Twitter this week, of course, just kind of expanding on it, right? Where I thought we were at. I'm looking at us on this wheel. I thought enthusiasm is essentially where we're at, and moving towards greed and delusion, not necessarily on the falling side, where a lot of people were telling me that we were on the denial side, right? And so that usually tells me, well, things might just be getting started. What are you thinking here in this cycle of maybe bubble?
Well, well, first of all, that assumes that it's a bubble, right? the way I look at it,
I was waiting to hear your answer on that one.
Right? We just had, and I think a lot of people forget that we just had a pretty awful couple of year bear market in which Amazon was down like 70%, and Meta was down 80%, Tesla was down 60%, and all these names. So, we're probably at highs. So I don't know, maybe what's the media attention, enthusiasm, probably around there, I would say. Again, assuming that this is a bubble, I'd say enthusiasm makes sense, but I don't think the market's in a bubble. I think part of the problem with studying histories when it came to bubbles and crashes is that was pre-internet. So what I think we're getting, longer chat, won't waste too much time with it, but
this is
I think
a good one.
We got a lot of rolling recessions, right? So we had automotive in a rolling recession, we had real estate in a rolling recession. So I think we're going to see more of that, where you're going to see pockets, especially with tariffs. You're going to see a pocket of the market that's going to have a really bad time with the tariff, and then other parts are going to be fine. And if it's probably the best thing for the market, right? So
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. We got to get on out of here. We got a little meeting to get off to, and it looks like I was not able to get it today. We'll see if I can at least just stay within reach, right? Right now, I'm waiting to see what happens with this GovX. Below the 180s, I'd get out and take the $40 hit, leaving me within $90, right? And that's what I want to do. I want it to be where I have to lose 3-4 trades to get out of one trade for the win, right? And that's why I took the base hits yet last week. We'll see if that mentality plays out. Like always, guys, we'll see what happens. We'll talk more bubble talk tomorrow, as I think we can have this conversation, Michael and I, to see if we're in a bubble or not in a bubble. The way I feel always, I think bubbles just come and go. I think that's just the way that we'll be moving forward. Why? In a world of social media, euphoria can run fast. All right, guys, we'll see what happens out there. Stay safe out there. Bounce back on the market today. A lot of talks about tariffs. If you guys didn't catch Michael's talk on that, rewind that. And like always, reach out to us if you guys want to learn more. We'll be back tomorrow and continue battling right here on TTP Live.